What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friend. He is a amazing trivia host. He is a ring announcer for pro wrestling and all combat sports. He's the one, the only Ozzy Vee. Ozzy, what's going on, bro?
I'm doing well, fantastic. Uh, just watched, like we were talking about before. Right now, I was watching some football with my nephew and my sister. We didn't want the Chiefs to win, but stuff happens. It was still fun to watch, nonetheless. But it's just fun to have that, that kind of connection. Because I mean, when I was a nephew, if I thought I could watch actual football with my uncles, that wasn't going to happen. It was soccer was one deal, but American
Yeah,
football was a no go. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Man, I was just telling my wife. I think I might have had two of the best weekends of my life, where it's involving either wrestling or Danzig. And I got to hang out with Danzig twice, once after Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, and go to the Rainbow Bar and Grill with him, Barnett, and half of the Bloodsport card, who are also my friends. And
Nice.
then, got to see him do the Halloween show at the historic Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, right, where he's singing Elvis. And yeah, the after party, and it was just me, Zeta Zhang, uh, Josh Barnett, and Danzig talking about combat sports and shoot fighting and stories of Thailand, misfit stories, Samain stories, and and even the group that he was around, like his band, it's awesome, not just awesome players, but awesome people. So it's just like it's a complete total dichotomy of the wrestling podcast that I was just on, where wrestling kind of sent two of my friends in a dark headspace, and I felt kind of guilty because I had this like back to back awesome experiences, and then they're not in the best way in the same uh universe theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, there's ebbs and flows to everything. So there's high points, there's low points. High point for you, low point for them. Be it what may.
Yeah, and it's funny because for those who don't know, and I don't want to trudge up any kind of weird waters, but I mean it was the best of situations how you and I meet, but right, and then and
Yeah.
shout out to both Freddie Havoc, who's a great friend of mine. I love the guy, love you too. I've always admired your work from afar, but to actually sit and rap with you and and it was like a negative into a positive, because like
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
not for that, that wouldn't have been the catalyst for you and I mean for what we're doing right now. So
Right.
I even though I hate that two of my friends are fighting, but if you're in combat sports, I just had a Saturday night where two of my friends are fighting for a prestigious bantamweight title, and I'm like, I really want one to win, and I
Right.
really want the other one, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't know, Jesus
No,
Christ.
I get what you're saying, and just to speak on that real quick, I mean, it's not really a thing. There's no fighting. There's no thing going on. We're just two separate people on this planet doing our own thing. So,
Yeah,
I mean, and in the situation you were just speaking of, that's two guys fighting in a ring physically. One's going to have to come out on top. Me and him were just two separate entities doing our own thing. So
yeah,
that's
no,
that's the way it is. But yeah, no, excited to be here. And this background I got back here, it's 3PWA. That's because on November 13th we'll be at the Winter Park American Legion for a bunch of tag team matches. Main event featuring Jordan Clearwater and Mikey O'Shea going up against Brandon Gatson and Guy Cool for the 3PWA Tag Team Championship. So I'm looking forward to
oh.
watching that one in the main event.
Oh my god. I literally have goosebumps. I'm a fan of
I
all
didn't mean
those
to jump
guys.
the gun on
No,
any
fuck
plugging or
that.
anything like that, but
No.
somebody
100%.
might be like, "What's going on behind there? Is he like in the middle of a store?"
No, I love it. No, 100%. Holy crap, the big dog live. And he's talking to you, good sir, one Aussie V. You're the
Oh, no, okay, okay. Listen, like I gotta
okay.
explain something.
All right, let's go.
So, I also there's this podcast that I got going on, Flesh Wound Farce. We review comedy movies, right? And it's part of the Flesh Wound Radio Network. There's different shows part of the Flesh Wound Network, and one is Flesh Wound Horror, where Dan Shine here is a host of, and he likes to make plenty of comments about me and Roman Reigns. I mean, I it all stemmed one day. It just because one day, this is where it all came from. I mean, everybody, like, there was one particular, I believe it's Hellbound 2018 or 20, no, it had to have been 2018, where we were in the middle of intermission and then somebody played the Roman Reigns music and everybody popped. And I just got so mad in the ring, just like, and you had the Tech Bob come out. He's like, what? I didn't do it. I'm just looking like, you know what I mean? So here's where it all started. It was a pool was involved, swimming. I come out of the pool, my hair is drenched, and it's got the curl. Oh, thank you, 2018, right? And I got the curly hair going on, and that's where. Well, actually, first when I mean, I don't know how I was in terms of weight. Technically, first it was Rikishi Reigns, and I know what floodgates that can open, but I don't care, whatever. That's where it technically started, and then it just morphed into Roman Reigns, and just the stupid music. So that's where the big dog
Oh,
comment comes
okay.
from to shed some light on an inside joke.
Oh, I
But
mean, and the question: can anyone really trust Paul Heyman?
see, like, of course,
I
he's
yes,
doesn't
and he
stop.
signed a vest for me. Uh, I mean, total disclosure: not the biggest fan of Roman Reigns. The only time that I acknowledge him is if you're like, who's more shit, like a shit stain on the business, him or Sammy Guevara. Roman Reigns, it's that
Interesting.
Jim Cornette, Bill Watts conversation where Bill Watts is telling Jim Cornette, Corny, I used to think you're a dumb motherfucker, but I've met so many dumb motherfuckers since I met you that you've moved up the ladder without doing anything. And that's
Right.
Roman Reigns in terms of Sammy Guevara to me, right? So,
Okay.
yeah, when you're saying that you're going to force yourself, like in
Good.
playful deal about one of the top stars in the business who happens to be a female,
Right.
fuck all the way off. Yeah,
Right. No, I got you. It was
yeah.
definitely an awkward choice of words, but to
He's
each their
gonna
own.
sue.
It's like it was just, of course. Yep, there it is. I told you he's not going to stop. He's going to keep going
Yes.
all
Yeah,
freaking
you
night.
know what? That's
Him
good.
and
I
his
mean,
stupid fedora that he's got
that,
super glued to his head.
okay. Well, that's. I mean, it's fine because I'm not a Roman Reigns fan. And you said, can you really trust Paul Heyman? Here's the thing. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, like Roman Reigns, you should like him because he's with Paul Heyman. And I'm like, hey, what about Cesaro? What about Curtis
Mm,
Axel?
yeah.
Right? And everybody wants to shit like, oh, Curtis Axel wasn't a good wrestler. He didn't chart. Okay, so his dad is arguably one of the best in ring performers that has ever lived. Also, one of the best grippers that's ever lived. Right? And you tell him, right, when he's training at WLW World League Wrestling under the late great Harley Race, right? Be your dad. Be your
Hmm.
dad.
Hmm.
Okay? Be your dad. Then you get to the fucking main roster, right? Michael fucking McGillicuddy. You spent a
Yeah.
decade trying to be like your dad from induction ceremony till he eventually gets signed. Actually, it was
Right.
probably less than a decade. But yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so if that doesn't fuck with your head, like,
Absolutely.
yes, I mean, shit. Look at the fake Razor and Rick Wagner, or fake Razor and Glenn Jacobs, who goes on to be Kane, formerly Isaac Ancombe at this point, and they didn't have a great time,
Hmm.
portraying moves, and you're doing you're doing your father's gimmick. And so symbiotically, as you're learning to wrestle, also you're learning to wrestle like your father. So it's ingrained in you, and then they
Hmm.
fucking strip all that away.
Yeah.
So again,
You have to unlearn what everything you've been doing. Just
yes,
I get okay. Well, I guess I'll just be generic guy number two or whatever
they
until I
literally
figure
give him
something
the
out.
fucking B team.
Yeah.
What are like? Oh my god! I just yeah. So again, not so. What did it for me the first time? The first time I was at he, the first time he sold a punch to the stomach. They had him in like the spot where he gets tied up on the ropes and everything like that. They punched him in the stomach, and he has a vest that's supposed to be at least to give the impression that it's a bulletproof vest because they're badasses, but they're
Sure.
SWAT members
Sure. Sure.
with
Sure.
full regalia, right? with
Yeah.
shit entrance music. Like the Roman Reigns theme song, to kind of circle back, if I have too much salsa on my Taco Tuesdays, right? I can probably fucking out of one of my orifices give you the Roman Reigns theme song. It
Well,
is
that song, that those opening few notes, or the old song, because I know now it's a new song, but that old song used to be synonymous. It almost like happened with the John Cena theme as well. Like whenever like something just annoying would happen, like in my head I just hear that dun dun, like I got that groan, just whatever. Same thing with the Cena music. Like I'm in traffic and somebody like cuts, like turn a corner, and then I see a whole bunch of cars, like the curb music or whatever. It's in that same category. I actually just did it. I mean, during the pandemic, we all did stupid stuff, but I was playing this game on the Switch called Tetris 99,
uh huh,
right? And I got like second or third out of like 99, and at the very top, the winner was Big Dog. And I'm just, oh, of course, like
motherfucker.
I heard the song in my head, right? So I put that all together. I had like just I had been recording that stream anyway, like
Mm-hmm.
just to record content, and then I just put that all together and I edited the song into it, just to like see what happened, and then
Yeah,
you hear
yeah.
that. So
Yeah, that
it's a,
gets an Orange Cassidy for me because that Orange Cassidy is a far better fucking Superman punch than the fuck you Roman Reigns, you know. And I thought Vince
what
didn't allow
is
you to have a Twitch. You,
I
uh,
I okay. Here's the thing: is my teeth are still my teeth, so we're not quite at Roman Reigns level anymore. Now we
okay,
have a distinct difference. Now, if I had just washed my hair, maybe that might work, but that's just a little much there. Um,
okay, yeah.
so I don't have the perfect teeth, so I don't think we can delve too deep into the Roman Reigns jokes.
Yo,
Dan.
so when that happened, right? When he showed up, after I don't know if it was after the leukemia or what have you,
No, it was after the pandemic, when he, like,
pandemic.
right before he turned, like, made did the major heel turn.
Yeah, so I in my head I remember the fucking Arn Anderson promo when Luger was still in the Horseman. It's like, and Luger, he's got such great teeth, he can make a fucking pearl-handled revolver. And I was like, that's it, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, I should be theoretically grateful as a half Polynesian, half Melanesian Islander because in wrestling, you're either a savage or a gangster,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And again, here we go. Like this is so you got a guy that's supposed to be a badass that is a part of a SWAT type based gimmick, right?
Right. Yeah.
They break away. All of them have shit music. Ambrose, while he's there, now he's Mox. Thank God. Is Seth the like? I felt like I got my ears got put through a wood chipper when I hear Rollins's music, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then yeah, so thankfully he's not a savage or a gangster. But here we go.
Right.
So he's a SWAT guy who sells punches to his vest, right? Because like fucking D'Lo Brown, when he hit you with that fucking frog splash, it killed you. It fucking killed you, right? Then he's like especially after I found out that Chris Hero was supposed to be the guy for the SWAT. I'm all like right,
Right.
and
Right.
then he goes on and he is a SWAT guy. Remember, right?
Mhm.
It does a move called the drive by,
That threw me off.
right?
Like, as a face too.
Yes, as a
It was
face.
just like a little strange.
And then he's openly cousins with his twin cousins. I mean, like, the Usos, which
Right.
Uso as twin brothers. Uso is cousin in Samoan. Okay.
Okay.
And they're right. So the brothers, but they're the cousins who are part of a penitentiary, but they're part of the fucking bloodline with their SWAT. Ah, ah.
Well, I always considered it, I guess, private security. And then I
Jesus.
think now I just opened myself to a comment saying, like, well, you were in the group. You would know what was actually.
Ooh,
So
ooh.
I'm just
I,
quelling that before it even
well,
comes up.
yeah, I like it, but you're like private security. All I think is like the shit ass private security that they have at the forum and or George Zimmerman, and that didn't work out so well
Right.
for.
I think it was more in when they first showed up, it was during a CM Punk match. So
Yes.
it made it feel like, oh, these guys were hired by Punk and Heyman to be their private security. So, but like I can totally see the SWAT team just because of the way they looked.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
there's this, and then even though like now, right? I will admit, as much as he's not my guy, right? He is doing the best work of his career,
Oh
right?
yeah, 100%.
But it's fucked up, right? Because name any one entertainment option, especially now we have more so entertainment options, whether it be media, streamable, music,
Okay.
podcasts, what
Yeah.
have you, right?
Uh-huh.
And wrestling, right? The shit that you want to see, right? And what avenue of entertainment could, for almost a fucking decade, your lead character is shit. You have to wait 6 years for a fucking payoff.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's also on the fault of their own as well for waiting 6 years. It could have happened after a year and a half or a
Yeah,
year.
but
But
they could let it happen naturally, you know. And
yeah,
it's
no, I get it. But
yeah,
I apologize that my cohort there had to bring up the name, so we're
no,
forced to talk about it for the past
yeah,
10
no,
minutes.
no,
Thanks a lot,
no.
Dan.
Yeah, Dan. No, I mean, and thank you for chiming in. That is, but yeah, that there's it's in my craw about Roman Reigns, and I should be, happy that he's not a savage or a gangster, like even like his older brother, a piece of shit, a superhero in training.
Right,
That was
right, yeah.
literally a fucking thing. So I should
Yeah.
be happy there. But also, I'm from my half of my family from the islands, right?
Mhm.
Tribal chief, you're not wearing fucking SWAT boots and SWAT pants. What the fuck ass?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But
No, I understand completely. I mean, you getting upset, about that. I've gotten upset about some movies that we reviewed just
yeah,
even last week. There
okay.
was a movie called Lost Skeleton of Cadavra.
Ooh, that
It
sounds
was an
not the
independent movie. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
really.
Here's why. So, I mean, specifically with anything you want to do, everything you got to pay attention to detail in every
Yes.
single thing you do, right? So, if you're trying to spoof a 50s B movie, don't dress like you're in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That just immediately like put me in a bad mood. So, I completely understand your frustration where it's like, what? This should be easy, like, come on, think. So I understand where you're coming from.
Which I mean, you say that was the worst movie. Have you not seen the cinematic greatness of a Spice World?
Spice World. Was that technically categorized as a comedy?
All I remember is there was one of their friends who they kind of treated like shit, right? And she was pregnant. They treated her, and again, the era, right? They treated her like
Uh-huh.
shit because she was pregnant. And then when she has the baby is like 30 pounds and clean. I'm like, yeah,
Okay, yeah. See, I haven't, and I'm hoping that it's not classified as a comedy, so that way
okay.
it doesn't come through as a request. I unfortunately have Don't Mess with the Zohan on. It's no private. Oh my! Oh, speaking of one of the worst movies of all time. Okay, yes, exactly. I hated Private School. Private School. Have you heard of this film, Private School?
I've heard of it. I just,
Oh
yeah,
my lord! It seems okay. You've seen Porky's, right?
yeah, 100%.
It seems like it tries to be Porky's and like it couldn't. Like it's almost as though like so many things were cut out of the script that it just seemed like a watered down Porky's. And what made things feel awkward, let's see, is that you weren't sure if it was a college dorm that was being spied in or a high school,
Ooh,
yeah, exactly. So then you're like,
ooh,
I don't feel good about this. And then
yeah,
I'm the asshole for pointing out this is weird. This is really weird. And to be specific, it was my buddy Greg that really was feeling like, isn't this kind of weird? My biggest thing is that the guy in the movie, because it's about a couple, it's always about a romantic couple, whatever,
of
right?
course.
You had Phoebe Cates, right, as
Oh,
the
yeah,
female
yeah.
lead, and Matthew Modine as the male lead.
Wow, okay.
And he actually, as they tried to raid this female dormitory, they dress up as women, to go inside to this dormitory, and he spends time with this rival female, the antagonist or whatever, and then Phoebe Cates catches him, and I'm just like, what am I watching, right? Because this
Yeah.
happened 45 minutes into the movie, and then
Wow.
and then about 20 minutes left in, Phoebe Kate says, I apologize for everything. I didn't understand you well enough. And I'm like, are you kidding? And then there was like a 15-minute love scene. Like, and when I say love scene, like they're running on the beach or there's just this bad music and it's just, I wanted to kill myself,
15 minutes
and
though.
I jabbed my eyes out with a pencil is what I felt like doing after watching this movie. And then even apparently Matthew Modine, when asked about this movie, chooses not to talk about it. Yeah. Probably admitted, like, yeah, that script was terrible.
Yes, yeah,
It
absolutely.
didn't make any sense. It's
And-
all my fault. You're the man. You can never be wrong. Like,
yeah.
holy cow, this is so. Oh my gosh! And what was weird? Oh, damn it! It's classified as a comedy. Oh, I'm gonna jam my eyes out. Anyway, there's a specific scene. No. See, pretended to be a woman breaking into a female dorm, a high school dorm. Dan, is that what you want? Anyway,
Yeah.
back to my point about another scene in private school is you had an old man give mouth to mouth resuscitation to like a woman in her mid 20s and then started to kiss her in the middle of, or it was and I thought to myself, I was like, okay, so how's this gonna play out? And she was completely fine with it. And of course, the woman that walked in with this old man was just a little upset, but nothing enough to actually do anything about it. I'm just like, who wrote this movie? Like the person who wrote this movie just had this like mindset of, just a kind of weird, and that's private school, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh
So
my God.
pardon me for being the asshole for calling this out.
No, and it's weird, right? Because now we have it's context for me. It's context is key. Like my mom, she used to tell me about like use common sense, but common sense is subjective. How I learned that is I was getting ready for work, and my common sense thing is get ready for work. Shower my asshole, go to work. And whatever. We had this cat. Cat fucking decides out of nowhere to trip me up. And then as I almost fucking fall and catch myself, this motherfucker goes to the back wall of the hallway, does a backflip off of the wall, and continues like nothing ever happened. And I was like, common sense is fucking subjective. But I also have the effect on animals. So there's that, right? So, but now it's, to me, it's context, right? Because all the folks that are like, save my children, I'm sure they would have loved private school. They are bumping their Elvis or Ted Nugent records.
Yeah.
You ask your mom your grandma, how old was she when she had your mom or dad, right? But nobody, it's the heritage that you want to, whatever, even though that heritage belongs to another fucking country. Okay?
Precisely. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But Ozzy Vee, bro, like again, I think you're brilliant. But how did you get to do all the awesome things? Because again, you're multi-talented. You're a ring announcer. You're a general trivia host, as well as a podcaster in your own right. But how do you start to make waves in the things that you love? Because all the work that you're doing, you love all of it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
goes through.
It totally drives me. And it started when I just had this office job working at a hotel as a revenue coordinator, right? Just data, Excel sheets, right? And it was just so boring to me. And I apologize if my former boss is watching this, but I mean, come on now, let's be honest here. But because especially where my background is, I worked 8.5 years at Disneyland, right? I started out at the front desk in hotels, right? I like talking to people, right? I'm more a communicator. So sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours, I've discovered is not for me, right? So I just wanted some sort of like, give me something extra. So then I started going to city council meetings in Anaheim, right? And if you've ever been to public comments during a city council meeting, that is reality TV, eat your heart out. That's where the
100%.
real reality TV, especially in Anaheim with Disneyland over here, like, oh my God, it's perfect. But it got to a point when I was just so like I had all this energy and like I would be taking notes during this thing, and I wouldn't be taking notes like specific significant items pertinent to the city of Anaheim. I'd be taking notes at hey, look at this guy. He's not paying attention. He's going to be voting for this in 2 minutes, and he's not even listening to anything being said right now. He's walking across the room. He's walking. Did he just tell that guy the city attorney's laughing? He must have told him a joke. And the mayor knew this. Tom Tate would be like, okay, well, we'll take a vote for this once Jordan Brandman returns to his seat. Silence. And then just here. And then this guy, Jordan Brandman, very odd, robotic kind of dude. Like, so for like, he would be in certain things, like, so this specific item when he was voting on, I can't remember what was off the top of my head, but on this specific item, he had really no interest in, right? Obviously, talking to his friends, telling a joke, they return to seat, they make a vote. Then like the next item 2 weeks from there was about car dealerships, a moratorium on car dealerships in Anaheim because there were starting to be too many. He got, like, it was all of a sudden like a fire got lit under his ass. And all of a sudden he became a politician and fighting for the rights of individuals to open car dealerships. I'm like, what is, and it's just like, this is a lot for me to take in. I mean, like, I'm an asshole. I got some history. I can't like challenge any one of these guys publicly. There's too much stuff against me, but I have all this energy that I got to let out now at a nighttime. So I just started looking for random host, like MC, right? Stuff. Because I've done like bits and pieces. And I actually, a buddy of mine, Brad Williams, got in touch with somebody at Knox Pro. Like, I guess this guy was at one of his stand-up shows, and my buddy Brad is a dwarf, so he's like, hey, I could bring in a luchador who's familiar with working with dwarfs if you're okay, like, having a really simple match. So they had a match, and I was ring announcing for half the night with John Ian. We split
John Ian. That's a good role there.
Funny enough, I ended up training at Mach 1
Mach 1,
2011, later on. But so I had done that one announcing thing, so I was just looking like MC, announcing, host, whatever. And then I had found a posting for a trivia host who was placed in Lake Forest called Slater's 50/50 at the time. And my first night, it did totally like a TV show. Of course this would happen. And if anybody knows me, they know like an ongoing theme with me is like, I always say my life is a TV show, and they're like, oh, that's funny. But then I'll tell them some of the things that happened to me, and it's like, oh. And then they'll like look around, like they think they're in the show, whatever. So specifically on this first night, I remember it was a Ducks playoff game, so it was pretty packed there, right? And I had this console that was hooked up to this speaker, for the music and all or the microphone rather. And the one of the waitresses tripped over one of these cords, and then it actually ruined the power cord. Yeah, and I'm like staring at this like, this happened on my first night, like. Wow. Of course, like nobody's here. Like, so I text my boss right away. Hey, sorry, this just happened. He's like, well, I actually happen to be in the area watching the Ducks game, and I got some spare equipment. I'll be by shortly. So I'd like plugged the mic into the wall specifically, and it didn't sound perfect. And he eventually got there and fixed things. And it ended up like, it was like an extra 45 minutes in, and whatever. But moments like that happen. That was my first night trivia hosting where the equipment broke. And my buddy was there too, my roommate, and he's just like, and I told you, I said TV show, didn't I? What do you call this? What are the chances that she puts her leg right in that spot? I'm like telling my friend this whole time while I'm trying to be, like turning over here, like, yeah, no, we'll get started. It's, I apologize about the mic, and I just turned my, could you believe this shit? Seriously. Can I get a break? And that was as a trivia host, right? And I just, so you had and so funny thing, like when you talk about like what motivated you to start doing other stuff, is that I have like a stack of notes. I'm looking at them right now, like this thick. What I used to do is I used to carry a notepad with me, and while I was in the office, or I'd like keep it in a drawer, and I'd witness something, and I just write it down like, this motherfucker still hasn't fixed the leak in the ceiling. I'm looking at it, and full disclosure, if you really want to do the deep dive in my Instagram, you can find this video where you see this leaking ceiling tile, and it's like dipping like this. It is dipped, like water is coming down. And I'm just staring at this like, man. So that's why I just, for fun, I did this Instagram video, right? And I shit you not, 10 minutes later, the insulation, the water falls right through. And then the next week I write, this guy still has his job. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
there's while working reservations at one of these hotels, there was a tourist group. I walk in one day and there's like a TV with like a somebody struck something. Have you ever seen somebody strike and like an LCD TV and you see like it
Yeah.
break, right? Obviously
Mhm.
somebody struck it, right? So I see this and I'm like, what happened here? And the front office manager says, oh, that's from the tour group. He says that it all of a sudden fell. He told us with a straight face that this TV just fell from the wall. Like, just stuff I couldn't believe. And the desk I was at, holy Toledo. I'm sorry that I just started going like one by one by
No,
one by one, but
this
it just
is
links into everything, right?
yes.
So I'm working reservations and I don't have a desk. I have a table. So in this time, the hotel's like gone. It's changed name, so I'm not like all my positive comments from TripAdvisor have been deleted. So the history of that hotel has been deleted. So I figure it's fair to talk about. So I got this desk, right? I'm sorry, table. And I call it a table because it doesn't have any drawers. It's just the legs and the board, right? So I got the monitors sitting up here and I got two, and I actually trained myself. Somebody helped me train myself to do two mice here because I had two computers. I didn't have one computer with two monitors. I had two computers with two separate monitors. Each had separate information. So I learned to go
Wow.
like this, right? And just do everything like this. Now here's the kicker. You've seen Mary Poppins, right?
Yeah.
You know, Admiral Boom at like 6, 9, 12, 3, they fire the cannon and the
Mm-hmm.
Banks family, oh, wait, hold on. Okay. And then they just put everything back in place. The color printer was on this desk next to these two monitors. And anytime somebody printed something through the color printer, both my monitors would shake. The whole table would shake.
Oh,
And I would just sit there like, it's the Admiral Boom moment
yeah.
from Mary Poppins. I turned to my pal Melissa there, and we just stared at it each time like, this is just, we're cool with this, yeah? Okay, cool. You know, it was there's just I can't get away from it. I came in one day and I noticed that there was, again, deep dive on Instagram, you could see this. There is towels under the door, right? And I'm thinking to myself, what? And then I find out, oh yeah, we found a beehive in the hotel.
No.
What do you mean, like a beehive? Like they're like in the wall. There is a beehive, and you know where? I mean, you could not. And this is why I suspect it has to be some sort of TV show. Because where would be the one place that you would make inaccessible in the event? Because for a beehive, right, they needed to put in this fumigation gas. They put in. That's why they put the towels, right? So all the rooms that were connected to that vent, right, wouldn't get the gas. So put the towels in, and there was one particular room that had the door removed. So because the door was moved, they had to put like plastic, right, over the frame. You know what that room was?
No.
That was the server room. The server room had all this open ceiling tile.
Oh no.
So I thought to myself, so let's say the system, you know, has a problem and we need to reset.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we would normally do it, right? Yes. So if something happens and we need to reset today, chances are that's not going to happen, right? Because we can't just tear this open because there's poisonous gas.
Yes.
That's correct. All right, just wanted to clarify because it seemed weird to me, but like of all the places that you could leave inaccessible, the server room was like, you can't write that. Like, when I tell this story to people, they think some of them think I'm making it up, but it's like, I wish I had that creative and imagination to make that stuff up. Holy Toledo. I mean, the worst I get, I told my mom one time that she asked me if I'd done a book report, and I told her I lied. I said I did, and she asked me what it was about. And apparently I just started talking about whatever. She had the book in her hand. She was reading the back of it. And she said, I'm reading the book right now. You didn't read this at all. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I dreamt that I read it.
Oh.
With a straight face. I told my mom that she gave me like the biggest, you are so full of shit look like that I've ever witnessed. You know, she knew right off the bat, like, you really thought that would work on me?
Oh no, I mean it's funny that you mentioned that, and I think this is one of the reasons why we meshed so well, because I had kind of two instances where I remember. I think I'm not sure which one to tell first, but okay, I steal this like Matchbox car from Costco, right? It was a big set of like 50, one of those holiday sets or whatever. I I don't I didn't need the car. I didn't fucking whatever. But I was just like I wanted to be the bad boy and I fucking wanted to steal. Well, I
Sure.
got exiled from the Inglewood Costco for about a year for my transgressions, right? And because of this, oh, it is the same fucking story. Duh.
Okay.
Okay, so because of this, my parents were like, uh, don't watch wrestling, right?
Okay.
So my dad, my stepmom, my mom, no wrestling, which is might as well have been death to me as a 14, 15-year-old kid, right? You've been watching wrestling forever, like since I was 2. And then my dad and stepmom worked at the clubs in Hollywood, as bathroom attendants actually. And they came home early one night, right? And of all the things that a kid of my age with more than premium cable, after dark could be watching. They come home early, and I'm watching Channel 18 here in SoCal, which was like on a Saturday night because I needed my fucking fix. Right? I could
What
make.
was that? Sorry, the audio cut out a little bit.
Oh, it was sumo wrestling,
Oh, okay. Got
right?
it.
So
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, what the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "It's sumo, though." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I wouldn't let them have it. That sumo wrestling. I went through the history at best I knew,
Mhm.
whatever. I wouldn't let them have it. And they're like, "This motherfucker." And then another story, kind of, in terms of the school age one. We funny enough had a not a book report, but a biography of somebody, right? And I didn't write it. I didn't write it.
Uh.
So I fucking freestyled and looked at an empty piece of paper with the binder behind it, and it was
Uh-oh. I lost your audio.
D, DJ Jazzy Jeff. Can you hear it?
You cut out a few words and you just came back with DJ
Okay.
Jesse Jeff.
Yeah. So DJ Jazzy Jeff, and I literally took what I knew from him and Will Smith and whatever, and literally the shit that was on the opening theme from Philly and everything like that, and that was it. And then I wrote it after the fact.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if there's something wrong with your mic, but the audio is cutting in and out just slightly a bit.
It might be the fucking internet connection. Everybody,
Oh, got it.
yeah. So that might
Understand.
happen. Yeah,
No, I got you.
fun times.
Science. So,
Yeah.
but so that's in terms of how the trivia hosting started, and then after trivia hosting, I started searching for other announcing gigs because I enjoyed doing that, and then I found a spot open at Underground Empire Wrestling, and when it's funny if you were to watch that, there's a it was mm, I can't remember what the specific event name was. It was I remember it was May 16th, 2016. I really want to say Vicious Vortex, but I feel I'm wrong. But the first match was Max X versus Ray Rosas, right?
Ooh.
And it was a great match. And as I'm announcing, like I had that regular announcer voice, right? But of course, if you're familiar with the underground, they don't like new people. And the whole night it was shut the fuck up, fuck the new guy, right? Just anything trying to just trying to break me, right? And it was for like 2 shows that it was like straight like that. But then the third show, uh, I think by that time it was Pledge Your Allegiance. By that time, I think I had watched a show back. It was the UITV match, and I was watching that on UITV. And I was watching it as I was eating. And when I heard the intros, I was like, did they dub my voice out? Because that doesn't sound like me. And all of a sudden, I had this voice that sounded like this in this corner, and it was just like a different kind of like energy to it. And that was forged by the crowd because it turned into like in this corner weighing into it's like in my head, it's like, God What do you
Wow.
want? Is this what you want? It's almost like it's after like the following contest is scheduled for, like, once I started almost like yelling it to them, then it's like, okay, don't shut up anymore. Like, we're not going to tell you to fuck off anymore. And it just happened. So it was like forged in flames in a sense. So it's overboard when I'm at, because it's a different vibe there. You don't necessarily hear that when I'm at 3P. You hear a little bit of it at 3PWA, but you won't hear like as much there because that is specific to that energy that crowd brings,
Which flush with
One
feature
of us. Yes. So,
context. What?
okay. So, yes, absolutely. This was reference to a story where an individual was just so completely gone after one of these events. It was at the VFW Sun Valley. Can't remember which event it was, but they have a front bar area, right, aside from their banquet area. And after the event, I'm saying goodnight to everybody, and I see a particular individual who he's just like, and I'm just like, hey man, I gotta go. It's like, no, you should drink. Come on. One of us. One of us. Just like, man, you are gone. So
Wow.
there you go.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
Now Bob Magana wants to know.
Does
Does
Ozzy hate pants?
Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh.
Here's the thing: is that I know that's a joke in reference to something. I still can't remember what it is. I mean, he told me a long time ago. I can't remember what it is because funny thing when I hear like pants in what seems like would be a joke context,
Mm-hmm.
me and my roommates over here, whenever we
It said like Steph,
before
but
the
like no number, and then
holy
it
cow,
shows
audio just got a whole lot
a guy
crazier.
pulling
I'm
out
picking up another voice here.
a voice box.
I
and
hope
popping
that's not
back
like
with his
a
blood
ghost or
on it.
something. You
Is
don't
it a
hear anything
ghost?
there?
No.
And now it went away.
Yeah,
It's still in the background.
It's
Definitely
Really?
not. It might, yeah. There's nobody in your
It's weird
room there.
because
No.
you do. Everybody keeps on thinking. Everybody
Yeah.
keeps on thinking like
Yeah.
Huggy is a toy that's been.
I almost want to understand. Like, it's almost like I can't remember. There was an episode of a TV show where two phone calls, like it picked up another line. Or remember, like old school landlines used to sometimes pick up a line.
And did
You
Yeah,
used
yeah.
to hear another conversation.
you know what?
Yeah. No.
It
I
definitely
mean.
sounds like a conversation going on somewhere, but totally lost my train of thought for a second. But me and my roommate, actually, there's where it was. So me and my roommates, we used to go to 7-Eleven all the time, right? Oh, there
Okay.
you go. Thank you, Danielle Hernandez. There is definitely a voice coming from somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
Definitely not ordering a pizza because it would have been done by now.
You can hear it. Wait. Let's see. Let's see this.
Alrighty, so here we are. I'm not sure if he just completely disappeared for anybody or if anybody's on him, but I'm a me. I guess I should continue telling you a story. I don't even remember where I was at, but I can just do a reminder about 3PWA happening November. Okay, good. We're back. I just
Yeah.
improvised some plugging.
No, 100%. No, no, plug away. Sometimes when you jump out and jump back in, I mean, can you still hear it?
Yeah, I don't hear it anymore.
Yeah.
Nope, there it is.
Couldn't
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. But anyway, let's just move on for real quick. I completely forgot where I was at. Now it's your show,
Yeah, sure,
right? Because
take
it switched to me for a second. Yeah. Anyway, where we were. Holy cow! Lost my. Where were we at for this? Before Magic was
Well,
starting.
you were
Popping up.
talking about the the chants of the underground, the one of us chants. The
Okay.
origins of
Oh no,
that.
it was the pants. That's right.
The
It
pants.
was. Do I hate pants? That was the
Oh,
question
there
that
you
was
go.
asked. Pants. Thank you, Danielle Hernandez. Roommates always used to go down 7-Eleven or this extra mile down the street, and I'd always use. I mean, every guy loves a pair of gym shorts, not because necessarily they go to the gym all the time, because they're being comfortable, right? So my response was always, "Hold on, let me get some pants on." So it was like for years that was going on. So even like just joking around, like I'll see my buddy in Vegas, right? Hey, we should go to 7-Eleven. I'll always say, I got to get some pants on though.
There you go.
So that's the first thing I think of. As I think, do you hate pants? But I know it's in reference to something, and I apologize. I can't remember what it is right
Were
now.
they blue pants? Because that's another wormhole of a wrestling reference.
Oh, no.
Leva Bates right on blue pants.
No, I don't. It definitely was not that.
Okay, 10 points, 10 points. But I mean, that first show was kind of almost like your first trivia hosting gig, and I think one kind of, led you and helped you along with the other. I don't know.
100%. Being so, the thing about like these trivia nights would be like, even still, I'm going up to each individual table, because I got a bad Yelp review once because I didn't ask a man and his 3-year-old son if they wanted to play. So here's the thing. Yeah, the look on your face is exactly how I felt. So I profile, I mean, whatever. I look at each table. It's like, they look like they want to play. They look like they want to play, whatever. And try to save time, right? Because if I go to each and every single table, it takes time.
Yeah.
This guy said he was rude. He didn't even ask us if we wanted to play. And even though at the very beginning, I always say, let me know if you want to play, but I'll still walk around to give them the option. Hey, we want to play, whatever. So because this one guy wrote a complaint, I now go to every single table that after I make my announcement regardless, right? And that I'm not sure what opened the door to that.
Oh,
in terms of me bringing that up, in terms of stopping every table.
Oh no! But you were in terms of like the foo bars that would happen. One giving way to the other and experience that first night
Right.
that you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So in terms of trivia, just talking to so many random strangers every week, and then I started doing it twice a week. So twice a week, just constantly every single time, and then it turned into something where I'd play the music based on what the answer was. I'd pick a particular song to make, and I kind of grew like a connection with whoever playing, be it whoever it is playing. I can mesh myself to whatever crowd I have, right? So with that, going into wrestling and these guys trying to scare me off, like they scared off the ring announcer before me, who, I mean, I hear ran away in tears. That's just me. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but that obviously didn't happen with me. So yeah, definitely being in that environment for nearly a year, twice a week, getting familiar with talking to random strangers definitely helped. Being in that underground crowd, for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. And wrestling audiences, when they can be vicious, when they can be loving, they're awesome. But when they want to be vicious, that's a lot. It can be mentally just debilitating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely was in the back of my mind. Like, okay, they're fucking, because they told me before the show, like, hey, we're really gonna try to get to you. And I would just be like, I expect it. I'm not surprised. But it's still like there's like just a slight percentage in the back of my head, like, man, what if they really can hate me? Like that never. You are such a liar. Now I will say this. Now, shut up, Bob. That is so full of shit. I will say that the second, it was the June event where at this point, because the first event that I was announcing for, me and Kyle Wilde split the duties, right? So he would do the title matches in the main event and I would do all the other matches. So the next event in June, I handled the whole card. And for some reason, so like when I did the event that in May, I guess it didn't really hit me because I'd loved wrestling since like age. I mean, I'll get into the story about how I discovered wrestling afterward, but it didn't hit me until June. And then I announced a title match. It was Human Tornado versus somebody else. I honestly don't remember who it was. Tornado retained, but I just remember specifically when I was announcing a champion, I started to feel something like in the pit of my stomach, like it's real now. Like this is actually a regular thing. And as soon as the bell rang, and I was done or whatever, I ran to the outside and puked behind a dumpster because it was that moment like, holy shit, this is real. Like, because I guess for me in my head, when I did that event back in 2006, with Knox Pro, that was like Samoan Independence Day in Aranda Park with John Ian, that was just a one-off event. Now
Right.
this was the second consecutive, monthly. It was like, damn, this is a thing now, and I couldn't believe just I puked my guts out behind the dumpster, right? But I felt fine afterward. It was just like one of those moments where people talk about throwing up out of excitement. That was like I was stoked to be in that position where I was at, so that happened. But good in terms of how I got into wrestling. It was just me looking at the video stores because my parents didn't watch wrestling at all. My grandmother watched old school lucha libre, and she actually definitely believed it to be very real.
Wow.
But my parents never let her show me that. And by the time I was really of an age where I could really comprehend things, she was already kind of starting to go Alzheimer's wise. But it was me in the video store, and I had seen on the new releases, WrestleMania 6 was on and in my particular video store it would be the covers, and then the copies would be behind if they had any available. But they only had the covers available because it had just happened or it was just released. So I remember seeing this, looking in the back, I was like, man, this looks crazy. So then I went to the wrestling section of the video store, and then I saw the WrestleManias, and I was like, well, I mean, and here I am 6 years old. And I see all the covers, and then WrestleMania 5 was the one that caught my eye. Because there you had the Mega Powers collide, right? You had Hogan and Savage on the cover. I was like, that's the one I want to watch. I remember it was a Friday night. And I tried watching it, and I was able to stay up until 1 a.m. until I conked out. But that was I was like, this is going to happen. I just kept watching wrestling videos. It would be, my weekends would consist of going to the video store, picking up a wrestling video, and then watching some old movies that we had recorded or whatever. That I never watched Saturday morning cartoons. I used to watch commercials for X-Men, and I never knew it when it was on, to be honest.
Wow.
It just said Saturdays on Fox, and I was just like, okay, when? And I never really watched that, because I was always watching either wrestling or these other movies. My mom had to place a 2-week rule for movies on me because I'd watch Back to the Future and Indiana Jones so many times that she said, once you watch a movie, you can't watch it again for another 2 weeks, because she wanted me to watch other movies. And all of a sudden I started watching these other random, have you ever seen the movie Space Camp with Tate Donovan? And it's about these teenagers that go to a space camp and they go up into space. Nothing happens. It's just a movie. You know what I mean? It's these random obscure movies that, have you ever heard of a movie called Malcolm about a robotics engineer? And they try to do it's just these random movies that I became exposed to because my mom placed that 2-week rule on me. You got to watch something else. She didn't expect it to backfire in the sense he's not gonna watch so many movies. That's exactly what I did. So that's why I guess where the podcast comes in too is because with wrestling since I was a kid, with movies since I was a kid, those have been my bread and butter. And video games is somewhere in there, but I just can't pinpoint where.
No, I think that's pretty awesome, and especially, a lot of those WrestleManias, especially the long ones, would be actually double tapes. You remember that?
I didn't have any that were available to me at the if they were double taped. Oh, wait a second, no. I do remember they used to have rubber bands on the cases to keep them together. Yes, I do remember that. But it wasn't until I think it was WrestleMania 12, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart in Anaheim. I was sitting the second row from the back wall, right? Oh yeah, definitely. Shirt, by the way, favorite WWF match, British Bulldog and Bret Hart at December in Your House 95 for the WWF title. That was my hands down my favorite WWF match. But that particular one, it was second row from the back, and watching Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, I was like, I want to do something with this. You know what I mean? And I had actually trained a few years after that. I was 16 at Big Bill Anderson School in Riverside, California.
Really?
Yeah. Ricky Reyes was the head trainer every Saturday.
Wow.
And it was the third match, the third session, where we were all doing hold the holds on the outside while he would be observing people on the inside. And I just remember he turned at one point and he's looking at everybody doing their stuff, and he says, hey, okay, just everybody stop. Your guys' intensity looks like shit. So here's what we're going to do. Everybody get on the apron. So everybody gets on the apron. We're going to have 2 people in the ring, make each other tap or pin them. Go. Right? And then nobody was coming in. So he called me in first. And then he let me get him in a headlock, and I have him down on the ground. And then he had knee pads on, but still, I'm getting 16 years old, right? He kneed me in the head 3 times. And
Oh.
it was just enough. It wasn't, I mean, like, it was hard, but it was just enough for me to understand, like, oh, okay, I get it. Like the what he meant by intensity, and even just messing around with somebody. I actually haven't spoke with him in years, but I used to work with him. He was a tech at Disney. Went by the name of Big Daddy Swing.
Okay, that's the
He
name.
he told me he worked, and so we'd mess around sometimes, rehearsals for a particular show, and he told me, "Man, you work stiff." I was like, "Sorry, that's what I was taught," because it got a sense like you don't train so that you don't get hurt. You train so you don't get injured. You know what I mean? Like it, and so that always like stuck with me. And unfortunately, the school ended up closing definitely before my senior year happened. I think it was April of 2001 is when the school in Riverside closed. And that's when I was like working at Knott's. And then after I graduated high school, I went to work at Disneyland. Right. And then I became like a lead at Disney. And we went to, or the broadcasting school thing happened. Right. We
Right.
overlapped 2 months, right, at the broadcasting school.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a branch, and I had, it's weird because when you have a good pattern of history at a company, you think, oh, this might go a particular way. Then what happens at broadcasting school, you might come up with some opportunity. So I had like an actual fork, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here I saw a fork, like, well, I have leadership opportunities here. That's insurance. That's all these other things that I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make that choice, and that's where that went. And unfortunately, well, I mean, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because like that took me down a path like towards Disney, and then towards the hotel, and towards all other stuff that eventually probably looped me back around to where I could have been initially. I mean, I don't know if I would have got an announcing spot earlier had I stayed in that other path. So but it definitely feels like a crazy ride.
No, 100%, and it's kind of crazy because the school in which you're referencing is the Academy of Radio and Television Arts in Huntington Beach on Beach and
Right.
Edinger, right
Yes.
behind the BJ's. Now, to have the fork in the road, right, where it's a little bit more guaranteed, especially in the early 2000s, versus radio, you could maybe be an intern or a member of the street team
Yes, exactly.
for 15 years, right, kind of sludging away in a studio apartment with 15 other people that want the same deal, and you're hoping to get like an hour at 3 a.m.
Exactly.
Right.
And
So
do you remember what just happened around that time? Sirius and XM took off. Satellite radio
yes,
was huge. And it
100%.
just like, you're just like thinking like, what had happened after now? Like, if it was just like, could happen 5 years from now, that would have been perfect.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, like, for me, and that's why over the last year I've done so many of this, because I actually would go to the Jim Crasher studio at De La O Jiu Jitsu, upstairs, and
Right.
and I did that for 2 years pre-pandemic. I love those guys. Robert Dondo. I was just with them on Saturday, but from where I live in Northeast LA to Stanton every Tuesday night would be about 90 minutes to 2
Right.
hours, and then even with that radio deal, the fact that there's no FCC regulations, I'm not fined or fired for dead air or saying fuck, right? That's why I'm like, you say whatever the fuck you want, and maybe I'm a little bit more whatever because I come from that old radio school kind of ideology that you couldn't do these things. And now I'm emboldened by the internet and things like Rogan and
Exactly.
you, and just
Can,
doing it.
can you share any, because in terms of the personalities you'd encounter
Mhm.
during broadcasting, right? I got one particular story that I'd love to share. Did you hear that, or was that my mind?
No, that actually happened. That there
Okay.
was somebody upstairs stomped, and then one of the partitions that I have.
There you go.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
Glad it wasn't just in my head. But we had to do, it was a vocal coaching class, Marv Taman. Did you ever have a
Yep,
class, Marv? Okay. So
that's
I don't
him.
know if he did this with you guys, but he he gave us a cartoon character. He said, come up with a cartoon character and I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write a commercial about toothpaste, and you're going to do it in animated voice. Right. And then, okay, who's first? So this guy went up and he says, I'm going to do Piglet. And everybody knows I work at Disney. So all of a sudden, like, people look at me like I'm supposed to be the expert just because I know, like, they know I work in the character department at Disneyland. And so he starts doing his thing. And I just had this look on my face because it sounds nothing like him. He stutters, but like there's no other effort to make like a sound like this. So Marv says, okay, anybody got any feedback? And I raised my hand. I was like, what was that? He's like, well, it was Piglet. I was like, are you sure? Like, was it a different Piglet? And he's like, well, why don't you try and do this? I was like, I'm not going to try and do this. I'm not going to say I'm going to try and do this. If I told a radio station that I could do that and they offered me $5,000 for that, and that would be what I gave them, I'd be embarrassed to look at them in the eye. And then he got so red in the face. And everybody kind of enjoyed me doing this because this guy was kind of like, you had your arrogant individuals, that you would cross, right? It's one of these arrogant individuals. So he's like, why don't you do it? Do what you're going to do, whatever. And I just did a generic South Park voice for Timmy Toothpaste. So, of course, anytime I was like, Timmy Toothpaste, right? It was like nothing ever happened. So can you share any broadcasting stories you got? Because, like I said, it was such a mixture of personalities that.
Yeah. Oh, so for me, my experience was like, and you got to understand my headspace. So I was like, for the most part of my junior high school life, I was like a portly son of a bitch, right? Like the Black Cartman. Like that was literally my dimensions, right? And I might have sounded like that because I had asthma. Where my cheesy poos and whatever. That's a pretty bad accent. But going from Inglewood,
that Cartman was better than his Piglet still. So
10 points, 10 points.
You're good there.
I appreciate it. But, we would go, me and my friend. So basically, I lost all that weight to go to the Air Force. So that's what I thought I was going to do with 4 years of ROTC, that they were going to give me E3 rank and pay. We were living at a hotel. Like, because my mom's credit was she was working at City Hall in Inglewood for the mayor's office, and it's funny that you said about the city council meetings, because on my mom's off times, she actually did the help with the video for the Inglewood council meetings.
100%. They put that all on the public access.
Mm-hmm. Yep, right. Exactly. Right. But my mom's father was the first broadcaster in Fijian-born broadcaster, right? So I thought I was gonna fulfill that lineage and both get two birds with one stone: the military service of both my grandfather and my dad, and then my MOS, right, was going to be broadcasting, and my dad was a musician. My hearing in 2003, when I did the whole military processing, whatever, it was I think I had 53% hearing loss. I know it's probably fucking dramatically worse now, 25 years removed. But then my buddy calls me one day as I'm literally fucking gaining all the weight back, eating those fucking gallon size ice cream, containers by myself. Yeah. And he's like, hey, this is radio school, blah, blah, blah. It's all the way, whatever. And we'd go 4 hours each way on the bus. And the reason why I didn't finish the schooling, the 30-week course, is because we had an MTA bus strike and I couldn't get up there. Yeah. So, but in terms of, the real Cisco is definitely
Cisco. Okay. So just to paint the picture for everybody.
Yeah.
The Cisco would be this guy that he was like the admissions director, right? And he would meet with you and then give you the voice test. And he's like, okay, you'll be talking on the microphone. If there's something there, we'll move forward. If there's not, we'll discuss that afterward. But it's not like he sounded like I just said. This guy had a voice that you just became instantly intimidated. I immediately thought, oh, there's no way I'm getting into this school. With the way that guy sounds, he's not going to let me in. And, I just did the thing. He's like, okay, and we listen to it too, right? Because that's what he does. He listens to it right in front of you, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh god, he's gonna tell me I suck. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
and in that, like, okay, well, like, just the weirdest.
Yes.
Well, it was a little rough, but we can work with that. Or just even, it was like 10 times better than that. Like I there has to be a specific brand of cigarette, I think, that gives.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say I want to pick up smoking, but if somebody could tell me, like, oh yeah, it's this brand here that makes you sound like that, I'd consider it. Because damn, but like when you talk about like the real sister, like, and yeah, anytime you just talk to him, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah.
I wish I could sound like that.
And the funny thing about it is that's what we were trying to, radio. This is like, again, right before Sirius pops off. Howard Stern signs that multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
deal with Sirius and what have you. And then you get was it Sirius and XM, or were they
So it was Sirius and XM as like the two competing brands.
right? And
And
then
then
they
after a while, Sirius bought XM. And then it
okay.
was just like that killed it. Cause there was, I mean, I was actually, my brother got me a subscription for Sirius for my birthday,
Mm,
right? And when there was the Sirius and then XM, there was actually good music that was coming on through Sirius, like in their mixture, and there's the stations available, right? But
100%.
then once they got XM, it's like they stopped caring. It seems to be an ongoing theme, even in wrestling. But it's
Hmm.
like once there was no competition, they just stopped trying, and it just felt like somebody hit randomize on a playlist, and
Hmm.
just it didn't. I kept hearing the same songs over and over again. It's like,
Oh,
what am I paying? Or I mean, I wasn't paying, but like I told my
yeah.
brothers, like, hey, I'm good. You can, and he had actually thought about canceling it as well. So but it
Yes.
was after they merged where it just started like, what's
Oh,
if you listen to Stern, like
yeah.
that's what you get it for. But
Hmm.
if you don't listen to Stern every day, ultimately it's a rough uh, purchase
It's
to
a rough go.
justify. Especially at that time. I honestly don't know what it is now, but I
Yeah.
remember at the time it would be like $25 a month.
Hmm.
And like you look at that now, like $25 a month could get you like a pass to Six Flags and
Yeah.
get you 2 free meals and 2 front of the line passes each
Hmm.
time you go, where you were paying $25 a month for a subscription service that at the time you could only listen to in your car. And be like, oh, you could listen to
Yes.
the web browser and be like, come on. Like they didn't, I don't think they
Yes.
even had an app for it yet. Like, because
Yeah.
actually iPhone hadn't come out yet at the time that
Right.
Sirius was going strong. So you had to have this specific receiver for
Hmm.
Sirius and like do this wiring on your car. Like it was like a little circular antenna thing that would have the
Yeah.
strong magnet. And I had that magnet on my car until I got rid of it in 2000. I got into an accident in 2018. So yeah, I had that antenna on there still. It wouldn't come off. It wouldn't come off.
Wow.
So I just had this antenna with just a cord that nowhere to go. Like I don't know what can
Yeah.
you do?
Oh, another one was like the reel to reel cutting, and you
Oh, that's
kind
my
of shared with
favorite.
me. Oh, I
Yeah,
fucking sucked at it. And
yeah.
Ryan Duggan, the nephew of Jim Hacksaw Jim Duggan, would be there like and we would just sit there talk wrestling all day. But I remember there was you remember the Red Trolley Ale? The
Red
fucking
Trolley Ale. Yeah, that was the
yes. See,
commercial that we had
it's
to edit.
burnt into my fucking brain,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And I would fuck it up because what they would do is give you two reel to reels, and you would have to stop and purposely there'd be some fuck ups and
Well,
dead
also,
air.
and then they would also, there would be like in the worksheet, it would
Hmm.
it would be like a copy of the commercial copy, but edited, saying cut
Hmm.
here, cut here, cut here, so you could familiarize yourself with, okay, this is what it's going to look like when they ask for stuff. And but yeah, you didn't like the splicing. I love the
No, I
splicing.
fucking cut my fingers. I don't think I even have like fingerprints anymore. That from that deal, I would always fuck it up, but I didn't care because I just like my uncle, my mom's brother, was actually doing an internet radio station deal from his house, so I knew this and then my dad's a musician, and everything was going from analog to digital, right? That was like the precursor to what would be the over reliance of like a auto tune, right? So I already
Yeah.
saw that this was going in a different direction. I was like, why the fuck do we need this? And so that those Saturdays, that would be it. It was the fucking splicing of the thing, and then doing the class with the vocal coaching and shit.
I think
The
Saturdays was not, it wasn't Marv, it was Lyle.
Lyle, yes,
Lyle was Saturdays, yes.
yes, yes, and the tongue and the teeth and the lips and shit like that, and the Mama made me mash
Lyle
my
let
own.
a lot more stuff fly than Marv.
Oh no,
Marv
hundred
was
percent.
like such like a it's the like
Yes,
he just
yes,
and then like
not the.
you could
Yeah,
say the in front of Lyle and he wouldn't get mad at you, but you say the in front of or the in front of Marv, he would get pissed at you.
fucking yes, hot, just
That
hot about
it
it.
was hilarious.
Yeah, but those are my. I mean, I was only there. Let's see, 12 weeks. It felt like longer, but it was like what, a 30-week course. I was there
Mhm.
12 weeks, maybe 8 to 12. It all gets fuzzy, but I got stuck with the whole 30 G's or 20 or 30 G's
Uh-huh.
because I couldn't go and I didn't whatever, and I took out a loan as an 18-year-old kid. Fucking a,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that's
Curious,
that's kind of it.
did you get the chance to do board ops?
I did. I did, but that was like
So
right before the bus strike happened,
okay. Well,
or right after. Yeah, right before the bus strike. Yeah.
just to explain what the board ops were in this particular school is that we would have a board op 1 and a board op 2 of each genre of music, where it was just familiarizing ourselves with the studio layout. And I remember the country music board op made
Oh
me the
Jesus Christ.
most depressed I'd
Yeah.
ever been in my entire life. I remember I mean, like, it was after, because what I would try to do is I do the board op 1 and 2 in the same night, right? So it would just spend 4 hours one night, just knock them all out. And then by like the third hour of my country music one, there was like a 7-minute song that was playing. So I remember I stepped out the studio, went to the patio, and I just called my girl. I'm sorry for everything. I don't know what I'm apologizing for. Just in the future, I'm sorry. Just all depressed. I couldn't take it. Oh man, that was the country music board. Absolutely, like, it reinforced my hatred of country music. Anybody listening to this or watching this that likes country music, more power to you. But that's rough for me. That's rough for me.
Yeah. No. And Daniel actually says, "I like your spear way better than
Still on it.
Goldberg and Edge."
Still on
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
told you he was not gonna let go.
No. No. So, and it's funny. So, and a lot of it was like my 4-hour trips to Orange County from Inglewood on the bus, and like I remember I was wearing an ACDC shirt, and there was this lady on the Orange County 6 that would go up and down Beach Boulevard and what have you, and she would always like recite. She just might not have been in the right mind and everything, and she was just like quoting like almost in a chant, like a euphoric Bubba Ray Dudley state, like and quote Lord's Prayer and everything. And if that's jam, hell yes, right? But if there was an empty seat, she fucking sat next to you and did her spiel ad nauseum. And I fucked up and had an ACDC shirt with Angus like fucking just shredding and
Rockin'.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Young man, do you believe in the devil?"
Oh
And
no.
I was just like,
God.
I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna take the bait." Yes, I do, man. Yes, I do.
Let's go around this bus together. Let's see where
Yes,
this ride
absolutely.
takes us.
And that was the time she actually fucking moved away from me. And I think she was Italian because she spat at me and did the this and that. And I was like, that's kind of the devil horns. Like that's definitely Ronnie James Dio. Like that's what we're doing. So, but I just had that crass personality. I also remember because me and my buddy Keith, who finished out the deal, he was actually would either get rides or do that. When the bus strike happened, there was a bunch of people that had their minivans, like a precursor to Uber, right?
Okay.
And for $5 would run the routes of the bus.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he did that and whatever. I just couldn't afford to. But I remember as we were trying to figure it out and see if like this was there was such pressure. Our first times with double-digit loans and what the fuck
Yeah.
and whatever. And I remember, we would grab one of the rooms, right, the studios, and we'd pop in with the damn it was a theoretical 8 track, right? But Stacey Orico's More to Life. And we would just lights off, plug that some bitch in, and we just zone out to that fucking song because it was our fucking plight, at that time.
Got it.
Are we gonna just be like fucking deadbeat fucking black kids from fucking Inglewood and get somebody pregnant and end up on drugs? Or is this really a thing? And
Mhm.
that song really encompassed that time for me. And I just, and it's crazy because after that, I swore off radio. I was just like, everything that I wanted to do in radio, I was just like, why I was doing it, to uphold the lineage, from my grandfather, my uncle, my mom, who was doing the fucking public access shit. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to take this fucking vestige, this old dead vestige. I'm going to create my own way and fucking work a regular job. Kind of that fork, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I swear I thought my fucking radio career was dead. I had a little sojourn a couple years later where my sister was actually going to San Rafael High in Marin County, California. And like, oh, my brother does radio. So the teacher would have me come in. I actually interviewed with one of like the big rock station in San Francisco and whatever, but it was like way over my head. I was just a fucking dumb kid or whatever. I was good for like the fucking AM format, for a radio station from high school, but
Right,
not
right.
not that big dog and whatever. And then
Yeah.
I started, like Rogan Happens and all that shit. And Colt Cabana's podcast. A lot of people forget about the Art of Wrestling. That was like the first real, like, niche pro wrestling podcast,
Right,
and
right.
then I really got into the fucking Court Bauer MLW because before Pritchard and Cornette and all of those, Pritchard, Cornette, um, Kevin Sullivan, they all were kind of spun off from MLW's
Yeah,
podcast,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So that was it for me, and I ended up training at a jiu-jitsu gym, and a couple of my friends that were fighters were, they had fights coming up on big time TV, Univision for Combate Americas and everything. I first started out helping out, do production for promo videos for fighters, and one of them was Daniel Rodriguez, who's top 15 in the welterweight division in the UFC. But countless, I think we did 12, got us footage like basically ripped from us by Combate. They used it for their own production, didn't give us credit nor money for it, kind of soured on the business. And I had a credential, and my production partner, Bosun Wang, wasn't there. And it was a show in Burbank, and we had a credential. All I had was my phone, and people had knew me from the fucking promo videos, started doing interviews on my phone, and 5 years later, here we are.
It's funny that, I mean, Ted, when you walked into that radio broadcasting school, same thing as I, like, one of the ultimate end games was to have a radio show where you can just talk to somebody for an hour or
Mm-hmm.
two, right? And so when you're, I can just imagine you're telling me the story right now when you're like, and then I'm seeing all like Art of Wrestling and Court Bauer's podcast. I'm thinking, and in my head, like, oh, you're thinking, oh, I don't need to give a shit about any of these FCC rules. And that whole 7-week lecture we took on the FCC rules, right?
Yes.
That oh, must have an 8-foot fence around the antenna, and oh, but if it snows, you still need to throw that out the window. Like, oh man, and I could do this on my phone. Like that, it seems so like when you walk into the broadcast, that was the end game. Like you wanted to work your way up to get to that opportunity, so you could have an opportunity to be in a studio and hope that somebody will give you time in a studio that you'll be able to record for that amount of time. Walking into that school, that's what you wanted. And here we are, however many years later, where it's just a matter of here we are, But I will
Yeah.
say the school actually did flip my interest. When I went in, I had such a desire to get into radio. But when I went out, I actually had more of a passion for voiceovers. Not necessarily animation, but like promos and narration, like the trailers, stuff like that. Like I got my demo up right now that I just recently cut in June. But that, man, those voiceovers are absolutely stuff that I love. Just, and there's a a particular fantasy football podcast I listened to, and they actually had recorded a voice and put a whole bunch of filters to it. So it actually sounds like this. Welcome to the like it sounds it that's the voice they try to get. And that's like I just practice that in my car, like for fun. You know, it so like those kind of voices just like to promote a product, like just give me like 30 to 60 seconds of just some good stuff, or I'll take a narration where I can have some fun with it, but not necessarily like animation voiceover, but in terms of like promos and commercials, like I just gained a passion for that through the school.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like there was a point, right? If you went in for radio, or if you went like it was rival schools within the same school because there's
right. So you had the
right,
radio broadcasting program, and then you had the the technical TV production, like
yes,
in a separate room or separate side of the school, right?
yeah. And you had to, you had to like, if you didn't like radio, you could transfer over, but then they tacked on an extra 15 Gs, so 20 became 35 and
Right.
whatever. But you had that opportunity, right? Opportunity, air quotes.
Right.
But yeah, and it's so funny because like we were kind of the last of the radio guys, and that's why. And Danielle Hernandez says, "I love country."
Of course you do. Of course you. She blared that. You know what? She blared that Applebee's commercial song. Like it was playing in her car, and she decided to blare it in her car for the entire city to hear. And I wanted to stab a pen in my ears.
Yeah, it's definitely it. That's one of the. I mean, my dad was a jazz musician. I sure did. She says, just fucking owning it.
Yep.
100%.
Anyway,
yeah, no, yeah, that's just one of the. I mean, I did like before. What really soured me, right, was, and I already got it from my dad, right, where I started liking like Pantera or maybe an AC/DC or that might not be as friendly for a brown gentleman like me, right? And so I was already getting that from my dad, right? But I remember there was this one Brooks and Dunn song called My Maria, and it is to me the country version of Aha's Take on Me, where like there's a it's the country version of like fucking Beer Money from Impact, right? Like he's from the country, he's from the city. Like one, I can't remember who's who, Brooks or Dunn or whatever, but it's that, right? And the one guy, there's this like in the chorus, it's like My Maria, but he fucking almost yodels, but like he fucking stretches his voice and goes so fucking high. And then he said some anti-ethnic shit, and I was just like, "Oh, yeah." I was like, "I can never watch." Or I just to be irreverent, I wore like NASCAR, whatever. And that was a big thing in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Wearing the NASCAR fucking jackets and Jeff Gordon and Skittles or whatever the fuck. And then again, that got found out pretty quickly. That if
that moment, it's like such a bizarre moment. Like you freeze on the inside. Okay, like there's tons of people that hate Dave Chappelle, whatever, right now. But I'm referencing the For What It's Worth special. Right. In that particular special, he references, you know what? You can tell yourself, man, if I see racism, I'm gonna get crazy. I'm gonna get in their face. They're never gonna be racist again. But when you actually witness it happen in front of you, you just freeze and you're just shocked. Like, God damn, that was racist.
Yes.
Just working at Disneyland, I was hanging out with Winnie the Pooh, right? And there's a family that's trying to take a picture, and I'll say they were probably born here.
Okay.
And Alice in Wonderland come this way. Alice and like they're all these merry band of characters, and then a family trails, but they see Winnie the Pooh's right here, so they get in the way of this lady's picture, and then like she's yelling at them, and then takes her kid and just yells, "Why don't you go back to Mexico, wherever the hell you came from?" And I'm like just standing there like, and I like look down like, does she not see me or like, and then like even Winnie the Pooh looked at me like, and I was like, yeah, somebody didn't get their morning honey. Because weird is like there's still kids there. The kids see and hear everything. Yes. So the minute I'm like, oh my gosh, that was racist, they're gonna be like, what's going on? And they're gonna start to freak out, right? So that's why I'm just bury it. morning, honey. And then like the
Yeah.
kids are like, oh, okay, I'll just keep going. Like it, because it's so weird. Like, I mean, it's not like you want to ignore it, but you can't. I got a name tag on. What can I do? Can't
Mhm.
do much. But like that moment where it's like you freeze and just like,
Mhm.
oh man, I did not expect that.
Yeah, and for me, always kind of sounding like this, and I mean, my voice is kind of derived from the tinge of British Commonwealth. My mom's Fijian kind of dialect. I mean, you go to Fiji, it's just a bunch of what would be considered black people with British accents. Like that's kind of it. So I was never black enough. I was never, Fijian enough, a good Fijian boy, because I'd fucking curse. I grew up American, pretty much. So I never fit in, right? Those so it's one thing to get it from your, like outside of your culture, and then also you go to your culture and you think you're gonna have some sort of refuge and understanding, and it's like, no, no, you're not even. And like, then why the fuck am I offended? I remember we were living in Bakersfield, where my lovely wife is from, and I love, like, Bakersfield is where I became a man, which is where my youngest son was born, and like, really had to figure things out outside of like a LA kind of understanding of things. But I remember he was just walking, and we had a yard off the street, and blaring Tupac, blaring Tupac, N word, shouts it at me and my, like caramel colored toddler. And I was like, at first I was like, fuck. But then I was just like, but he was blaring Tupac. Or, I worked at a McDonald's soon after my son was born because there was just no other options. And I saw this big ominous tree outside. And I mean, it was maybe about a block down from the McDonald's where I worked. And it was right across the street from a pretty historic bar called Trout's, where Buck Owens, who's like royalty in country music and especially Bakersfield, owns literally half the town. Uh, but this across the street from this Trout's bar and grill, there was this big ominous tree, huge tree, no branches, right? So I kind of asked one of the customers. I was like, "Yo, dude, like, what's up with the tree?" And he's like, "Not even missing a bit. Back in the day, son, we used to hang out,
Oh man,
but don't worry, you're one of the good ones."
thanks. Like, how do you respond to that, man?
Yeah,
Eh.
yeah. It just and it's weird because we're in this like weird socio-economic political, like, there's so many, when you're talking about wrestling universes and everything like that, like, we're dealing with this global pandemic that nobody knows fuck all what to do, but then also the, you know, like, fucking sticking it to the man, whether, the political parties, whether you're a conservative, there's even the Trump conservatives, and then if you're a liberal, there's the progressive liberals and shit like that. So there's infighting even in between ideologies. The LGBTQ community, Vice did an amazing thing. I during one of the elections where they got people who subscribe to every bit of the LGBTQ community, right? Every part of the rainbow. And there were Trump people. There are, different backgrounds. Poor Trump people, rich Trump people, transgendered, like whatever, liberal, like, and it was just like, even that is you. We think as cis human beings. I hate that. I don't identify with that because it sounds too much like cis to me. But it's one of those deals where, like, there's so much this, and then you've got AMC that could fucking bankrupt the stock market. Then you got cryptocurrency,
That
like
was
all of
so
it.
beautiful. The
Yes,
AMC and GameStop stuff just showed how vulnerable and volatile things are, and how just
mhm.
absolutely ridiculous the
Havoc.
system, how
Yes,
easily it could just be tipped into chaos. All
yes,
like it's just the Joker, like, just needs a little push.
yes.
And but like that, it's art. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I hear you
well,
absolutely.
and it exists all at the same time. People fucking, trying to get out of Afghanistan and fall into their deaths, because the airplane wouldn't get him out of there, and North Korea, and all, like this is all happening at the fucking same time. Gabby Petito, but then a legion of fucking native girls or ethnic girls get whatever and under the rug swept, and it's no less tragedies, whatever. But it's like, and that's why I'm so careful. I You can call me a personality, you can call me a broadcaster, you can call me an interviewer, you can call me a podcaster, but I will correct you every time if you're like your media or reporter. Because Luke Thomas, who arguably is the best MMA, you know, journalist, right? And he's just like, I got jaw jacked in front of my colleagues and the entire world by John Jones, who was like, Luke, I don't want to talk to you because Luke reported on something that John Jones did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only is that, it's just like the fucking ripple effect. Not only you're not talking to John Jones, everybody in John Jones's gym, everybody in John Jones's management team, whatever, and then now you're blackballed, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. So if Brendan Schaub, a guy who had a cup of coffee, who played NCAA ball, had a cup of coffee in the NFL, at one time was a top heavyweight in the UFC, and he's making more money doing comedy and podcasting, and he's okay with being a personality, then motherfucker, that's good enough for me.
More power to you. That's what it's all about ultimately.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and what has been your, because you do a lot of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the hosting. I didn't even know that was a thing until I knew that you did it, and like how masterful you are. One of the things that I love about you, Ozzy, I'm gonna like your facial expressions. You are made for fucking pro wrestling, bro. Because like that's the thing. The money is here. The money is
Uh-huh.
here, and
Right.
the way you sell things. You actually remind me a bit of when I wasn't watching wrestling. I was watching 2020 on Friday nights with Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs. And no matter what the fucking subject matter, I could not give a shit about the person when I fucking sat down to watch it as a fucking kid. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of that hour, the 3 segments and the fucking commercial breaks and everything, they got me hooked because it's a human interest story. And that's the
Right.
same thing. Like I look at your Instagram page and I'm like, I don't care about that movie, whatever, but the passion that you have behind it, the vigor that you have your voice, it gives life to almost something that I would think is dead.
Yeah. And that's but the funny thing is somebody might like see that, they'll see me like get crazy and think like, oh, whatever, he just is just trying to be a certain way. But I've been that way since age 6. I used to get in so much trouble in school because kids used to be able to rile me up, right? To get me to the
Ah.
point of getting in trouble. And I needed to have like these in junior high, I had these counseling sessions. And that's actually what got me into theater, is because I had all this energy that, like I'd be talking to the counselor and said, you can't let them get to you. And she's like, just, they annoy me because I have things I want to say. And if I can't
Mhm.
say them, they'll just, build in me. And then that's when have you thought about theater where you can let all that stuff out on a stage? And no. So that was in 7th grade, and it was some whatever made up play, but I remember I specifically died 3 times. So I had like one role, like at first I was like a butler and I pretended to choke on something, or no, I was auditioning for something. No. I can't, whatever. I choked on something the first time, so I pretended to choke and I fell over, right? Then the second time I was a handyman and I fell off a ladder, which was kind of cool. Yeah, there's a crash pad there, but whatever. I was stoked. 12 years old, that was like 1997. So you actually still hadn't seen the Hardys yet, right?
Yes.
And like it was still Sean and Razor was the
Yeah.
ladder match. So I would just come on like I'd be on the 4th step and think like I was extreme, right? At that time, 97, taking that fall. And then like I do another costume change, and then I got electrocuted and fell on like this giant cushion. People cheered when I died. Whatever. I don't care. If that's what I gotta be, that's what I gotta be. But that's where it like turned into like, okay, at least I can channel this energy into something. So at least it's entertaining for people. Right. And it just became second nature to a point where then I started to get back into some trouble. Like when I got into high school,
Mhm.
I'm not going to, mince words about it. I can have a volatile personality. And like, if you get me going on something, I'll go crazy. I don't care who's around me in a parking lot,
Mhm.
whatever. But, I, uh, there was some more counseling done in like my freshman year. And then like, I almost needed to go through that thing again, but just like kind of embracing that creative energy. Right. So, but the, what I have now is, uh, I'll get like these ideas. Like if I'm watching a movie or I'll read like a news story and there's so much like absolute ridiculousness in it. Like
Yeah.
I can harness this energy to enhance it. So funny story, the last video, so with the Instagram that I got going on, I put the pictures up for the Flesh Wound Farce episodes and I talk about these comedy movies, whatever. I love talking about movies. I could do that all day, specifically detailed, whatever, right? But when it comes to these other things on my Instagram where it's like videos about random news stories, Bob, shut up. You're such a jerk. Good friend Bob Magana, but still can be a real jerk, especially when he loses a Tetris 99. To me, he's just
Ooh.
so jealous and upset.
He
Anyway, so just going back to the last news story I did before COVID happened, like really telling people to come out to a bar, right?
Mhm.
It's about a lady who stole a car and the police had the lights on following her. She didn't stop. When they pulled her over, she said, legitimately told the cop, this was in Florida, of course, like half of the news stories I would find, weird news stories came from Florida. But this lady said, first, she didn't feel like pulling over.
Mhm.
And she also claimed that she was Beyonce, right? Like she legitimately told me there's another aspect of it, but there's like these three things. So I'm reading this story. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. But man, if I could just use the titles of
Mhm.
some Beyonce songs to just,
Oh yeah.
and that's what I sprinkled in titles. So, so then I think that now I can't remember the exact wording example, but I just remember like finishing it with like win at trivia and feel like you run the world.
Oh
So,
wow. Yeah.
but there's all these, um, damn it. I wish I could remember that whole thing, but I just remember like, so I had these because I was legitimately annoyed with this lady, like thinking like she legit told a cop, oh yeah, I'm Beyonce. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, it just pisses me off so much. Like, so I just get like into it. Like
Yeah.
there was another guy who got trapped. He was trying to rob like a tech store or some toy store, and he actually got stuck, and he had to call 911 for help to get out of the store.
Mhm.
And another guy siphoning gas from a car
Yeah.
got his pants caught on fire because there was some sort of spark or something, and you saw the security footage, and so there'd be just these random news stories that
Oh
like
yeah.
not everybody hears about. So I hear about them. It's like that energy, like is like, hey, we can play with this. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just kind of that's always been with me. That just kind of like the slightest thing that can just get me going, I'll take it and run with it
No,
if I if I
100%.
really have, if I'm in the mood for it,
Well,
But
it's
people think
actually.
I'm trying to, like work them or whatever. Like especially if I get crazy, like in a restaurant, just because I get passionate about something,
Mhm.
people think, oh, he's trying to get our attention. Like, no, I'm genuinely like curious about this, and I'm
Mhm.
pissed. Like the intensity of my voice stems from that.
Yeah.
So it feels like a backwards. You know what I mean? Like,
Which did you have that before? Because that was actually another Academy of Radio and Television Broadcasting Art. Oh, fuck, I can't even remember the whole name of it, the proper name of it. But because I remember we used to do, like I think they explicitly told us, our class, that hey, you have to have people stay throughout the commercials. So you got 5 to 7 seconds, read a headline, the most fucked up one, and paraphrase it. You can't use exactly what they did in the newspaper because that's plagiarism,
exactly. Yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
it is something later in life that I fucking know, like, oh, it's just fucking sensationalism. But did you have that ability before radio, or is that something unconsciously that came maybe from your time?
It was, I think, still stemming from like when I was a child and even trying to harness energy. Like we'd be bored summers, like me and my sister, and she would get this idea, hey, let's make TV commercials, and she would write me a script right at age 5, and it was, I'd always just have so much energy that just needed to be done on something. So whenever I would have a project come in, so like when they talked about, find a headline and say something about it, I think to me, I'd always revert to humor. Like I'd always want to revert, like because I think if you can make somebody laugh about something, that's when they're going to remember it, right? And the thing that sticks out in my head the most was when it was the Boston Red Sox winning the World Series in 2004, right? And I remember saying at one point, and congratulations goes to the Boston Red Sox for breaking the curse of the great Bambino and capturing the World Series for the first time in over 50 years. Now, if only I could break my family curse and actually lose some weight, that'd be great. We'll be back in a few minutes here on K Beach 88, right? So, and people would kind of get like mad. So like they would hear, because you know how you used to have it was vocal instruction. So you would take your tape into an instructor, they'd listen to some of your stuff, and then they'd like say that or whatever. And you would have like one other person with you in the room, right?
The peer.
I remember whoever I was with, they would hear my stuff and they'd just be like, just because I was thinking on a different, that's why I at some point before the Fleshwind farce, I just did a project just testing stuff out called KFWF radio. And I had opened things out by saying that I'm the stunningly stupendous student of stupidity. And that is 100% true. Like I have the absolute most attraction to the stupidest things. Like, and people think so when I host trivia, I don't write the questions, right? I'm just a voice. But because I retain stupid, useless information, like for example, I have a Spaceballs, the t-shirt, right? It's unofficial because the official one's technically all white. It's got a black stripe. It says Spaceballs, the t-shirt. But when George Lucas was screened Spaceballs, he told Mel Brooks, hey, you can do this. I'll even have ILM help you here. ILM, or the alien puppet at the end of the movie Spaceballs was made at Skywalker Ranch. So George Lucas was all on board with Spaceballs. The only thing he requested is that no money be made off the movie, no merchandise. So it makes that whole merchandising scene a lot better. But when I tell that to people and they're like, oh my gosh, you really are smart. No wonder you're on trivia. First off, I'm just the voice. The only reason I know about Spaceballs is because, it's a great movie, but it's also a stupid movie. And that is where my attraction lies, in the stupid things. That's why I'm doing this for a living right now. That always does it. It's because you're an alien. No, Danielle. Let's not get started talking about aliens now. It's okay. So you talk about how crazy things are on this planet, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, look at the advancement in technologies that we have today, right? And what is it primarily used for in society? Entertainment, right?
Dumb shit.
Stupid entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of imagine that we're not alone in the universe, right? There has to be some sort of society out there in the universe that reaches a point of evolution. What is their level of entertainment, right? Would their level of entertainment would be to potentially create a simulation, give everybody some intelligence, and see what happens? Have you played Grand Theft Auto, like the latest Grand Theft Auto 5?
Yeah.
Seen any video of it?
100%.
You ever just drive around and just see
always
people? They do random stuff in that game.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes I'll sit in the car, right? And just people watching Grand Theft Auto and just think to myself, okay, let's just think of the parallel. Like, okay, so we're not in a simulation, whatever, right?
Okay.
Let's just look at the parallel universe that we are a simulation, right? How would the circumstances be different is the question that is in my head. Like, this is pretty much the same thing. Because what's huge, what has always been huge since it first hit, I'm pretty sure, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Survivor, well, I should say the real world, but
right.
The real world is what was the snowball that started. But then when Survivor hit, reality TV just completely blew up.
100%.
So if there is some sort of advanced civilization, hey, let's create a simulation and we'll call it Earth, and crazy stuff will happen and you could follow whoever you want to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine like a Grand Theft Auto thing. Now they're so advanced in their civilization, their instant or their version of whatever video game they want to create could look like this or whatever. I was just in my playing Call of Duty with my nephew. You show me the Modern Warfare, like the remake or whatever, and I'm just thinking to myself like, God damn, like this looks very, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's gonna get to a point you're not gonna tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't tell the difference,
yes.
I mean, what's really the difference between a pixel and an atom in one context? That's just.
It's funny that you say that because, like, I mean, they're, being.
Thanks, Danielle, for bringing up the aliens. By the way, this is where this I.
That's
we're we branched to.
Yes,
yep,
yes, yeah, 100%. She fucking threw that damn line out and just fell for it. No, but I actually love it because you also think about things like spiritual, right? I know in Fiji, as if you're a male, right, and she loves this, just fucking loves it. But if you're a male and you're dancing with a girl in a club and she might be too good for you, way out of your league, they say you stare at her feet because she might be a fucking poltergeist. She might be fucking floating. No, 100%. Right. So is it like in that kind of alien simulation shit? Is that like maybe just like fucking, is that a fucking cheat code? Is this
okay? So check this out. So
Game Genie?
It could be, because I mean, you play any sort of video game, they could program whatever they want in this game, right? Or even like just look at the Matrix, and like the Woman in Red program is what designed by Mouse, right? So the label of alien or the label of spirit, the label of ghost could be a myriad of things. You could have, I mean, this might be a little too crazy, but if you stay with me, I promise there's a payoff at the end. But there's a theory that there could be a life form that we would not be able to see with the naked eye, right? So if that's a potential to exist, right? And we look at this simulation theory with the potential. So then let's bring in the movie Tron, right? Let's take Tron in here and let's say, okay, so we need to get in this simulation somehow and kind of make some stuff happen. We need to make this guy president for sure. Because if this guy becomes president, our ratings go through the roof. Okay, so what can we do? Well, we create our own avatars. And then we behave in those avatars. We'll use the VR system to operate within the simulation. Okay, what's your name going to be? Oh, shit. What's a common name? Steve? Okay, Steve's a good name. Bannon? Okay, yeah, that'll work. You know what? You're a major dick. That'll be Dick. Those are some chains over there. You'll be Dick Cheney. You'll be Dick Cheney. Like, just think about the amount of people who really fucked up this like world. But think of the Fifth Element scene, right? When you have Zorg throw the glass down and he says, look at the glass that's broken. You have all these tiny little machines now having something to do. And the people that built those machines are now getting a paycheck. So we need to make this show entertaining. A show about peace isn't fun, is it? No. You need conflict for entertainment, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, there needs to be some sort of conflict. So that's like I said, spirit, ghost, aliens, these are all just labels to essentially the unknown and unconfirmed. But if there was a full-on simulation and TV shows and ratings were on the line, like, I wouldn't put it outside the realm of possibility. If you're willing to believe that far into whatever theory, I mean, what the hell? Why wouldn't you believe somebody would just insert themselves as an avatar and they're actually of that outer world, that likes to think of a name called Karl Rove, just another guy that could be one of these guys that's just trying to perpetuate stuff so ratings can go through the roof.
Wow.
And then maybe somebody told somebody to go through a bat cave with their mouth open. Sorry, everyone. Yeah. See what happens, Danielle? You see what happens?
I fucking know. Because So I had a bit of a COVID scare, right? And
Mhm.
honestly, I'm not the same since. Like my fucking memory is not as crisp as it used to be, but also like I'm a little bit more free, right? And like I'll see my wife at the corner, like I'm on air. My wife was like, "What the fuck are you saying?" Her eyes getting big and bull, just
Right.
like that. This I'm loving it. You know what? This is almost like like with Blake Troop or Josh Barnett. This is one of my favorite fucking podcasts because like I kind of fucking don't have to say anything. I can just sit here and react to whatever the fuck you're. I mean, total disclosure, folks, because I feel like you're the other me.
Right.
We've charted similar paths. Like
Mhm.
I feel like whatever, and I can. I'm not alone. Like I am getting so much fucking wealth and like spiritual fucking food. Like I feel like I'm not alone because
Oh
Ozzy
no,
V is out
100.
there fucking doing the same shit.
So let's just use the word spirit just for whatever.
Yeah.
So under says this. I went to go grab some food earlier today, and
Wait,
I
you
called
eat?
the wrong place. Yeah,
You
no,
eat?
yeah,
What?
I eat right. Surprise.
Oh.
So, but I had actually called the wrong place. I'd called one place in Buena Park, thinking it was in another city or whatever, right? So when I actually got to the place, it's like, "Hey, I phoned in an order." They're like, "We don't have it." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, whatever. Sorry, can I just reorder?" So I reordered the thing, and I had my mask on as I went outside inside. And I asked what the time would be. They said between 10 15 minutes because I just wanted to go chill outside. So I go outside and I take my mask off. I put it in my pocket, and then I hear my number called, and I get my receipt, and I go up to the front, and I can't find my mask. Like I'm looking everywhere, and it's like
Oh.
I walk in and I kind of got my head down a little bit because I just feel guilty about being around food service workers that have to wear masks, and here I am,
Uh-huh.
like, sorry, I also wanted an Oreo shake, and I don't know where that is, so right? So I got to wait extra. And I think about that. I'm waiting extra time for a shake to be made, right? So I'm looking through every single pocket, like just where could it be? And it must have fallen. It's not in any of my pockets. I emptied all my pockets, right? Then I get to my sister's house. Because I was seeing, like I mentioned the football with them earlier, and I got my hands in my pockets and I was like, I look at her and I said, "You're not going to believe what just happened." And I explained the whole story about this mask thing. And now when I put my hands in my pocket, I find that the mask is in the same pocket as my phone. I don't put things in the same pocket as my phone, but I checked the
Wow.
pocket with my phone while I was in the restaurant because I had the time to do so. So speaking to your the spirit, it just that really either that or I'm a magician and I don't know how I'm doing magic. Which, damn it, like I need to figure this out. Like,
You're
can
all,
I just think of cash? Can I just get cash in my pocket instead of a mask? Could that be a possibility? That would be brilliant. But
so then you'd
man,
be Cash Mass rather than Cash App?
I'll take a cash mask. Can you take a cash? I'll take a. I mean, like, oh my gosh. But
Oh, Danielle.
is like talk about the law of attraction. Like lose my wallet again. Okay, now I gotta tell this story.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
I have no choice. So I'm getting ready for work. I gotta make some deliveries, and I can't find my wallet. And I'm looking all over the place. Okay, like I'm losing it because I'm looking at all my normal places where I put my wallet. I'm
Yeah.
starting to turn my room upside down, right? And I'm looking in the living room. Like, where is it? And I reach out to a friend of mine. I don't want to disclose any names just in case their names don't wish to be disclosed.
Right.
But I said, hey, I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm in a pinch. I need to get to work and I can't find my wallet. So can you help me out here? And she says, I'm sensing sofa. Like sofa. I wasn't sitting on the sofa, but I'll check the cushions. I didn't see anything. Anything else? I'm sensing something low to the ground. Okay, low to the ground, not on the ground. So I'm looking at a I'm scanning, my bedroom, like looking like this because I had just made a payment like at 7:45 that morning. So I know like the wallet is in the room and I got
Mhm.
left it somewhere, whatever. So I'm scanning, I'm scanning, I'm scanning, I'm scanning. And then I see my wallet on top of a PlayStation 4. And where it is, I would have because I have like a stool right here to my right hand side that I use like as I put things down on, like
Yeah.
keys or a wallet. So in order for me to put my wallet on that console, I would need to have gotten up from my chair, moved around the stool, bent down to drop the wallet on top of the video game console. So I said, okay, so I found it on top of my PlayStation. What does that mean? She says, well, they probably say it's raining and they want you to stay home and play video games. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. I got to go to work, but thank you.
Mm.
And then I go outside and there were these legit raindrops on my car. Like so, and I said, well, it has been 36 hours since I'd picked up anything. So it's my spirit, what have you.
Manifesting.
I don't know
Yes.
what, but that was a story that I had shared with a few people. So that's
I
where
fucking no, and you're an impeccable storyteller. Like I don't know if you know this or not, but that is a superpower.
I
And
would be. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, because I mean, for me, you remind me of the plight of a lot of MMA fighter, right? Where some obviously people get into it for different reasons, self defense, blah, 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 blah. But there are people that just want to fucking fight, right? And it's a fundamental darkness. They've got kicked out of schools, basically placed in, detention centers, one way or another. And like now they're teaching, classes for what would normally be or considered previously be their fundamental darkness, and they're teaching literally like people from fucking JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, that fucking launch shit into the fucking moon and what have you. And they're teaching these people, and it's like a weird kind of like flip where, the teacher becomes a student, and no matter how much intellect that you have, what have you. So you, who had gotten in trouble early in your life about being outlandish, being a little bit more expressive than your classmates.
Rambunctious, if you will.
Rambunctious, yes, young rambunctious lad you were, and the fact that you've taken this and this is your superpower. This is where you belong. Like I love it.
I sorry to cut you off there, but I'd be absolutely remiss if I didn't give credit where credit is due. When I was like I had done theater in high school, right? And there was a camp. There was a camp, like a performing arts camp called Camp Bravo, right? You'd spend a week there, you'd do workshops, certain things. And there was a storytelling workshop. The teacher of the storytelling workshop was by the guy by the name of Mark Lewis, who had actually won Emmy Awards. He was on the Tonight Show, right? And he taught, I mean, his primary focus was in children's theater. If you were to Google his name, you'd find tons of just children's theater stuff. But that was just like his skill for those kind of stories, but he taught you to tell stories in your own kind of way, you know? So I had that energy, and I think it went more refined when I went through his workshops, right? One of his number one rule in everything, and no matter what story, no matter what style of story you tell, make it real in whatever way you can. And to me, I interpreted that as like, I'm already like expressive, right? I'm already passionate. I already got this energy. If I can sell all this in a connection, you're going to buy that as real. And I know that's like, you might be thinking like, wait, so are those stories true or not? No, they are, but I'm sensationalizing them for entertainment purposes. You know what I mean? And that's actually how I feel on the inside. I guess this workshop gave me like a way to actually communicate specific things in a story, if you to paint the perfect picture, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to give credit, because God rest his soul. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but I learned a lot from him, just in terms of, I mean, I can't get into everything, but
Right.
man, I used to have like, and it was weird because even afterward, just every now and then, like I used to have a conversation, like a phone conversation with him, or I used to sign him into, when I was working at Disneyland, I got him and his daughters into Disneyland for the first time. I'm not sure when was the last time he had been to Disneyland before that point. He was actually one of the voices, still is one of the voices on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, where
Wow.
he's one of the "We Wants the Redhead,"
Yeah.
voices, and one of the prisoners at the end that's calling for the dog. So hearing him tell his stories and then having him share his techniques in what makes his stories entertaining, I have to give credit to that. So it just helped me like channel the energy and know how to direct it from him, and I'd be eternally grateful. If it wasn't for him, I'd probably be stuck in an office. Guaranteed.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's crazy, call it spiritual, call it energy, whatever you want to call it. But there are people that come into your life. Sometimes it's long lasting relationships. Sometimes it's for fleeting moments, right? And then they could have such a impact on your life that it reverberates through everything you do, consciously or unconsciously. It leaves a mark. It leaves a stain.
No pun intended, because his name was Mark. Nah.
Yeah. R.I.P. Mark. No, 100%. But
Can I wouldn't normally do this.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but there was a joke that he had told us, part of the elder kids, that he couldn't tell everybody, and I wouldn't normally do this, but I'd love to share this joke that he had explained. So he talks about how there was I'm a terrible Scottish accent, so I'm not going to go with that attempt because it would ruin everything. But he talks about the story about a guy named Angus, and he's sewing. He has all this yarn, and he's making this kilt. Right? He's excited to show his girlfriend Gladys his kilt, so he's working on it. Finally gets it, puts it on. It looks fantastic. So he rushes out the door. He slams the door, but the door catches a piece of the thread from the kilt.
Oof.
So as he's running, the thread keeps around the kilt. It just keeps leaving and leaving and leaving, and the kilt just keeps going shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Right? By the time he gets to his girlfriend Gladys's house, it's practically gone. He swings open the door. Gladys, what do you think? Oh my God. That's amazing. And he says, and I got 3 more yards at home.
Hey, I like that.
We just completely lost it because we had never heard him tell a joke like that. It was all like family friendly stuff. And that was the first time it was like, holy, we totally weren't expecting it. And I'm sure the Scottish accent would have helped, but I wasn't anticipating it.
Well, it's almost like, that epiphany that I had when I saw Bob Saget, everybody's fucking favorite TV dad, in fucking Half Baked, and talk about sucking dick for crack and all.
Yeah.
And I was just like, my world just got like, what the fuck, the OCD Danny Tanner.
Yeah.
And he's fucking telling dick jokes about sucking dick for crack.
Did he do the song too at the end?
And Half Baked?
No. Oh no, I was talking. I thought you went to go see him do stand up.
No, I haven't.
Oh, just in Half Baked.
Yeah, just in Half Baked.
His stand up is oh my gosh, it is raunchy but excellent. It is absolutely fantastic.
You know what? I don't want to say never, because my friend Stu Kosh, he invited us to go to the Burbank Improv, I want to say it was, and saw him perform. But outside of that, going to the Rainbow, Bar and Grill with Danzig, as much as I love music and love, rock music and everything like that, I've never been to any of those clubs on Sunset. I'm pretty sheltered. I don't go out too much, right? I like being home. So it's like, that's one of the things that I want to do. But yeah, like to see a full set of him doing that shit, like that'd be great. Which I feel like you went in the stories of the nether regions, and yes, it's an ode to Mark, but I feel like I have to repay in kind. Okay. So this is an actual story.
Oh, excellent.
So I went to Crozier Middle School, the last 2 years of my middle school career, right across the street from Inglewood City Hall, like in the same little complex. And I remember, I think it was like the latter part of my 6th grade year, where one of my friends was using a urinal right as the fucking bell was about to ring.
Okay.
So you know what happens? This motherfucker, in a hurry, zips himself.
Oh God.
Okay. So they take him to the nurse. The nurse can't do anything because they're obviously sensitive area and there's no parental consent. So this poor fucker is getting blue balls, but hard way, but not actually hard.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So they're trying to call his mom. Could not call his mom for whatever reason. She didn't pick up. Called his dad.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
know? Do you know what his dad did?
Oh, I can't wait to find out.
One of the fucking people at LAX that drives the fucking planes in.
Oh,
So when
okay.
he's at, and this is what 90 late 90s because I graduated middle school 99. So so this is not everybody had a fucking cell phone,
right.
So this poor motherfucker stays in with his zipper in his fucking pants
Yeah.
for 2 hours.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. It's a two. Okay. So I can tell you why his mother didn't answer is because I want you to imagine the individual making the call. Well, it was imagine the nurse, right?
Yeah,
I'm guessing you believe in karma.
100%.
Okay. So imagine you're this nurse and you are calling this boy's mother and you're telling her your son zipped up his
Let's just call him Willie. Like his Willie got caught in his Willie.
But like she has to be professional. She can't say Willie. She's gonna have to say your son zipped up his penis and it's stuck and we need you to pick him up. Those are the words that she needs to say. So imagine she is dreading to say that to an individual. So that is why the mom didn't pick up, is because the nurse had good karma on her side. So that's why it referred to that. Now, what's hilarious that you mentioned this story is I was 10 years old when that happened to me. I was in Vegas and I was just excited to, get out of the room, but I didn't go all the way. I went up and then I immediately what happened. And then I just went immediately down and it was like one of those, just like, it's just like,
near-death experience.
I told my brother about it because he was in the room. He started laughing his ass off. And I was like, I know it's funny, but it really hurts. And he's like, do you need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, we're not going to the hospital. I'll be fine. And I have a mark to this day. Sorry for, any graphic visual, whatever.
Ooh.
But so when American Pie happened, or I'm sorry, Something About Mary happened.
Yeah.
Right. I watched that in the theater. I'm like,
oh,
how did he get all the way up?
Yes.
Like that was my first thought, because for me, that first catch, I was like, nah, that ain't gonna happen, right? And goes all the way down. So I don't know exactly what happened to the friend. I don't want to get into too much detail, I guess, but do you know if he went all the way up?
I know halfway.
There you go, exactly halfway.
Yeah,
so watching Something About Mary is still the same. Like, how did he go all the way up?
Yeah, no, and I mean, the way that I remember it, because I think I had a headache, so I just happened to be. I caught a headache. Like I would not know about this story if not me having like a migraine headache.
It's the spirits giving you the migraine headache for you to be in the nurse's office to witness this.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But they're trying to cover it, but you could hear the nurse and like this is all hands on deck. We have his teacher, the one who he was running to the class for. We have the principal, the assistant principal, the janitor for some fucking reason, and yes.
wait a second. Hold on, wait. I get everybody else on this list, but the janitor's like, are they gonna feel left out or something? Like, what expertise does the janitor need to bring in for this
clean up on all three
situation? I mean, like, but being there, I mean, and when you talk about everybody being there, I'm in my head, I'm visualizing like all these individuals, like, and they were there, and they were there, and they were there, like all in this room. And it's like when you say the janitor was there, it's like, wait, what? Like, what's he doing there?
we also we had two security guards. George, a Latino gentleman.
Okay.
And we had Blondie, and Blondie was a pretty tall African American woman with bleach blonde hair but had the body type of Louis Anderson's dad in the cartoon Life with Louis. Chopstick legs, big ass
Wow.
body,
That
and
is 10
whatever.
points.
And
That's a deep
it was
reference.
yes, and it was Blondie who found the fucking blood curdling screams of this poor fucking asshole that zipped his pants and shit like that. So I feel like to get certain things out, whatever, there's gonna be some expulsion of fluids. And that's the only reason why I think I could justify,
Why a janitor would be called, sure.
otherwise it's just like he
That
might
must
be a
have been
creeper.
that's a pretty deep cut. Oh man.
Well, didn't Rod Stewart and later Sheryl Crow go? First cut is the deepest,
Mm.
and I'm sure he tried to love again, but he knew the first cut was the deepest. Just saying, yeah, man.
I hear you.
Speaking of deep cuts, yeah, I mean, obviously you're here. You got that fucking amazing ass logo right behind you.
Yes.
Such names as one of my and Flobo Boys from AfterBuzz. So favorite wrestlers of all time is one D'Lo Brown. He's been associated with it. Gentlemen who
Associated. D'Lo Brown is the commissioner of 3PWA at
there
the
you
time
go.
that we speak in the moment. So that's some official business
Ooh,
there.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you talk about we started off about a motherfucker that might not be as badass with a shield to a bad motherfucker with a shield, and also a fucking Muslim hat because that was definitely a thing that gets fucking Pro River plunged on Shotgun Saturday Night on a fucking car.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
my God.
Exactly. But again, as a reminder, that's 3PWA happening Saturday, November 13th at the Buena Park American Legion. Get your tickets now. You can visit the Facebook page of 3PWA. Get your tickets. Jordan Clearwater, Mikey O'Shea, Brandon Gatson, Guy Cool, 3PWA Tag Team Championships. That's going to be a hell of a match.
And you I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous, but you, good sir, will have a role in some capacity at this very show in which you speak.
I'll be handling the ring introductions.
That's an added fucking value, folks. You can get all that is Ozzy Vee with
Live
your
and in
pay
person.
100%, 100%. And you can mob him for autographs, ask him about crazy shit that happened in radio, or maybe some off-color Disney Disney horrible things that happened. Because man.
You can be like, Ozzy, tell me a Disney story, or tell me a hotel story, or tell me a call center story, or tell me a delivery story. Tell me a security story. I got stories everywhere.
Yes.
And some I can't share on a podcast. So
yep.
ask me, please. I got stuff I'd love to share, but I can't. I've shared as much as, well, not as much as I could. I got to save some stuff, but
statute of limitations for sure.
We at least had a greatest hits album on this episode.
100%, and even a couple deep cuts, literally and figuratively
sprinkled in, exactly.
Oh, ouch! That's probably what was left of his, balls.
Oh, bum.
No, yeah, oof. Yes, but obviously, Ozzy, you are an enigma. But there have been a lot of people, both professionally and personally, that have helped you to get to where you are. So take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So I got to give credit ultimately to an individual by the name of Tyler Cole. The reason I say that, it's something we didn't even talk about, is Tyler Cole is an individual who, he's a writer, right? And he's an actor. He's fantastic at what he does. He's asked me to help out in some projects that he's had. There is a fan film of Uncharted, the Uncharted video game series. I know Tom Holland's going to come out in a movie next year, but back in 2013, Tyler Cole wrote, him and Danny Muniz Gutierrez wrote an Uncharted fan film and asked me to be a henchman in it, right? Based on the previous experience I had, like taking bumps at Mach 1, whatever, and the other stuff, I like kind of became like a pseudo stunt coordinator where like I'd be like, okay, if we were doing a fight, like, and I were to do this, you would have to go this way, whatever. And from there, I used that and I got into another role that was for like a short 3-minute movie that was for Project Greenlight. That thanks goes to Tyler Cade Simmons. And what I did is I used those two. And there was also a film that wasn't completed called Hearts and Spades. I actually ended up cutting my hair for that movie, and I needed to learn how to use a butterfly knife. But so that's cool just to have that skill, I guess. Almost cut my fingers off a few times, but thanks goes to him. But because I used that experience to tell my trivia boss, Brian Rubenstein, thank you very much. Like, hey, this is what I've done so far. This is how old I am. This is what I look like. Hey, come on down. And then I got to thank Andre Verdun for ultimately giving the okay for having me be the announcer for UEW. And I got to thank Kyle Wilde for giving me the spot at commentary beginning in 2018 for March of the Damned. That was being held at the Santa Ana Elks Lodge. So he gave me that first opportunity to be play-by-play. And I got to thank Derek Zane, who's been my color commentary partner in all these events. I got to thank, of course, UEW President Daniel Hernandez and my own Flesh Wound producer, Todd Loya, and, of course, Tech Bob. Despite playing the Roman Reigns theme while me in the ring, I still appreciate him. I want to give a shout out for all the help and advice, like just in general, because a lot of the times it'll be like Todd or Bob that will get ideas about stuff and be like, hey, what do you think about this? They always shoot to me straight, so I appreciate that of them. In terms of, I hope, I'm sorry I didn't, if I missed anybody, I apologize, but I first ones that come to mind, I didn't expect you to ask that question. So if I did, I would have had like a list prepared and I would have been a ton of names on it. But these are the names that I had to thank for ultimately being able to be at where I am today. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. And again, like, mass apologies if I forgot anybody, but that I'm not trying to offend anybody. If I try to offend anybody, I'm really going to try to offend somebody. Like, if I'm going to get the time, I'm going to do the crime. So,
yeah, double jeopardy. Hell yes. No, and also everyone. Just when you go everyone, because that's so blanketed.
I got it. Yeah, I got to thank everybody. And of course, the underground, as I mentioned earlier, for forging me into that voice and personality that I became. So I got to thank the underground and anybody that's come to a trivia night or anybody that's come to a wrestling show I've been a part of, and thanking anybody who's watching this right now. Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
That's awesome. But also that's a cool little trope because they're like, oh wait, you don't identify as everyone or a person? Like, like I want to thank all the people. Like, oh, you didn't mention me, Ozzy. Well, guess what? You're not a person because I distinctly said that's a nice little
one.
I mean, yeah,
we
absolutely.
Could look up everyone in the dictionary right now, and you could tell me what it means.
100%. So that's that. But obviously, for people that want to get more of you, I might have linked all of your socials right down here in the description of this very video. But for those who want to get more of Ozzy Vee, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Well, primarily on the internet, it's the Instagram page, the Facebook page. It's public; anybody could catch on that. I still am hosting trivia 3 nights a week: Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights. Tuesday nights at the brewery in Placentia at 7 p.m. Wednesday nights in Griffin's Grill in Los Alamitos at 7:30, and Thursday nights at the Honey Pot Meadery in Anaheim. That's actually at 6:30. So there's plenty of opportunities there, and of course, November 13th, I'll be at 3PWA handling ring introductions, and UEW will be returning March 5th. It'll be the day after the release of the new Batman Matt Reeves film, March 5th for March of the Damned, happening in Long Beach. So there'll be more information about that to be released soon. So, but again, the Instagram page, Facebook page, that's where stuff will be updated. If you feel bored and you want to listen to my voiceover demo, you could head to voice123.com/Ozzy Vee, OZZYVEE, for some demos that I think are pretty good. I lost your sound there.
Not left on the cutting room floor. Not at all. Yeah, that's some A1+1 fucking entertainment. So go ahead and follow him, you guys. Ozzy, thank you for joining us here at According to Woods, and thank you all of you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Ozzy, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
I am subscribed to the podcast.
Hell
Thank you.
yes.
And thank you very much for having me. Of course, most importantly, I wouldn't have an opportunity to share this story if you didn't give me an opportunity to have me on as a guest. So thank you for that.
This ain't the end, kid. I think we're going to be doing more work together.
I'm fine with that, but we definitely covered a lot of ground tonight.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, go ahead and follow him. Subscribe to the podcast. But if you don't believe me, don't believe Ozzy, and I don't know why you wouldn't. Oh, here's Zeta Zhang to help convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According to Woods YouTube.